If you're a Waec aspirant, do well to watch this video to the end. Hello, welcome here. My name is Engineer Josh, and in this video, I'm going to be walking you through the maths topics in the Waec math syllabus that you need to know before sitting for the Waec examination. But first of all, we need to understand the structure of the exam. Now, the exam is divided into two parts. We have the objective and the theory. So what should you expect in the objective section? Now, in the objective sections, there are 50 questions, and you need to answer these questions within 1 hour, 30 minutes. Now, for the theory section, it is divided into two parts, okay? The first part, you have 5 compulsory questions, and in the second part, you have 8 questions, out of which you need to answer 5. All right, and the duration of that theory section is for 2 hours, 30 minutes. Now, having understood the structure, what topics should you expect in the Waec maths exam? The Waec maths exam is divided into 9 sections, all right? And here we'll be looking at these sections together. So you should expect questions, number 1, from numbers and numeration, okay? Talking about topics like your number base, all right? And the likes. Now, secondly, you should expect questions in algebraic processes, all right? When you have to deal with linear equations, factorizing, all right? Okay, so the third section, we're dealing with mensuration. Under mensuration, that is where you have your solid geometry, all right? When you're talking about shapes, 2D shapes and 3D shapes. For your 2D shapes, you're dealing with your rectangle, your square, you need to know their area, all right, for the 2D shapes. Then for the 3D shapes, like your cone, your cylinder, you need to know the area, you need to know the volume, you need to know how to solve in that respect. Now, for the plane geometry, here we're dealing with angles, basically, all right, where you have to, recall your corresponding angle, your vertically opposite angle, your alternate angle, and the likes. Now, we also have trigonometry, a very, very important section. What should you expect in trigonometry here? You need to know your special angles, all right? The special angle 30, special angle 60. Also, you need to know some trig identities, like what will sine square theta plus cos square theta give you now? It's equals to 1. So you need to know those trig identities. Now, we also have introductory calculus. Usually, you might find a few questions from this aspect when you're talking about your differentiation and your integration. Then we have statistics and probability. Under statistics, we're dealing with measures of central tendency, all right, measures of location, measures of dispersion. So you need to know the formula for your standard deviation, your mean, median, and mode for both grouped and ungrouped data. Now, for probability, definitely you will see some questions on probability. And then lastly, vectors and transformation, where you find a few questions. Now, without wasting much of our time, we are going to go into solving some of the questions that you can find in most of the topics, all right, in the Waec math syllabus. Now, what will be the structure of this video? The questions will be pasted above, all right, so you will see the question before I start solving. So do well to take note of them. And also, every single formula that you need to know before we solve, all right, will be displayed on the board, as I will be using those formulas to explain and expatiate. All right, so stick with me as we get into the first section, which is numbers and numeration. I'll be starting off with the first topic in numbers and numeration, which is number base. All right, so real quick, let's get into it. Now, let's look at the first question on number base. Okay, these questions are going to be solved in such a way that you can at least have a 90 to 95% understanding of those topics, even if you are not well grounded in them. So make sure you stick along and you follow through. Okay, now the first question in number base, as you can see above, says we should find x if 132 base x is equal 70 base 8. Okay, so here what you can see is that we have a number 132 base x being converted to another base. So 132 was in a particular base before, but now it has been converted to base 8. So we want to find the base which 132 was in before it was converted to base 8. So we have several options. Option A says the answer is 5, option B 3, option C 6, option D 1. So real quick, let's get into it without wasting much of our time. So the first question on number base says convert 132 base x. Okay, it was converted to base 8, so we're asked to find x. Now, how do you convert numbers from one base to another? Okay, usually you have to convert the number to base 10. So if you want to convert a number from one base to another, you first need to convert that number to base 10, then divide by the base which you are converting to. But in this case, we're not doing that direct approach. So we need to make sure that what we have on the left-hand side and what we have on the right-hand side are in the same base. So we're going to convert them to base 10. Now, how do you convert a number to base 10? It is very simple. The first step is to number from the right to the left, starting from 0. So this is what we're going to be having here. So I'm going to put a little number 0, 1, 2. You see, I'm numbering from the right to the left, starting from 0. Here also, I'm going to number from the right to the left, starting from 0. Okay? Next, what are you going to do to convert these numbers to base 10? Now, you are going to multiply the number by the base and raise the base to the power that is written on that number. So here's what I mean. We have 1 times x raised to power 2 here. That's the first number. Plus 3 times x raised to power 1 plus 2 times x raised to power 0 equals to what? 7 times 8 raised to power 1, okay, plus 0 times 8 raised to power 0. All right, so what did I say is the step again? The first step is to number from the right to the left, starting from 0. Then we use each number to multiply the base and raise the base to the power that is on that number. So you can see I have 1 times x, and x is raised to the power that is on that number. Likewise, you can see I have 3 times x, and x is raised to the base that is on that number. And it applies for all the remaining values we have in the given basis, which we are converting to base 10. Now, if this is an objective question, you might not need to elaborate in cases where you have zeros. In cases where you have 0, it's going to be 0, so you don't need to spend time writing on your solving sheet to save time. But if it is a theory question, do well to explicitly show all workings as Waec attributes mark to your workings. Do you understand? Now, we have here x squared plus 3x plus 2. Why is it 2? Now, you should note that it is a rule in indices that when a value is raised to power 0, it is always equals to 1. So x raised to power 0 is 1. No matter how big the number is, if it is raised to the power of 0, the result is always what? 1. So 99 raised to power 0 is 1. So here, x raised to power 0 is 1. So 2 times 1 gives us 2. And here we're left with what? 7 times 8. Okay? So 7 times 8 is going to give us, that should be 57. All right, then 0. So 7 times 8 is going to give us 56. All right, then we have plus 0 times h raised to power 0, which is 0. Do you understand? Now we're having s squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 56 plus 0. Now what you can see here is that this question is leading us to a quadratic. All right, how do you identify a quadratic equation? The quadratic equation is characterized by the term there, all right, or the variable there being raised to a highest power of 2. You understand? So you can see that the variable here, which is x, is raised to the power of 2. So that's what makes it a quadratic equation. So we will need to understand the concept of solving quadratic equation to also simplify this number-based question. Now, let's express this in terms of a quadratic equation by equating everything to 0. So we're going to be having s squared plus 3x plus 2 minus 56 equals 0. All right? So we're having s squared plus 3x minus 54 equals 0. So here, from here, we are going to simplify quadratically. Now, how do we do that? It is very simple. Now, the first step is to get the product of the first term and the last term. All right? Get the product of the first term and the last term. Basically, the term C and the term A. Now, note, a quadratic equation is usually in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. All right. So in this case, C is minus 54, B is 3, and A is 1. So sometimes a question might start off as putting, they might arrange it as putting it as what? AX squared plus C plus BX equals to 0. This is still correct, right? But just to avoid making the mistake of multiplying this term and this term, you should note that what we are always getting the product of is this first term and C. That is A and C, all right? AX squared and C. So please note that. Now, first of all, to solve quadratically or to simplify so that we can get the positive value of x, multiply the first term and the last term. So we're having minus 54 x squared. All right? Now, what are we going to do with this minus 54 x squared? We are going to find two terms, which when we multiply them together, all right, they are going to give us minus 54 x squared. And when we add them together, they are also going to give us the midterm plus 3x. So what are those two terms going to be? Now, the two terms that we're going to be using are 9 and 6. All right? The two terms that we're going to be using are 9 and 6. Those terms must be factors of this 54. 54 can be divided by 9, all right? And 54 can also be divided by 6. So let's first write the terms together, 9x and 6x. Do you understand? Remember that we're looking for two terms, which when we multiply them together, they are going to give us this term, all right? And when we add them together, they're going to give us 3x. But now, 9x times 6x is going to give us 54x squared. But note, it's not giving us minus 54x squared. We need something that will give us minus 54x squared. So you can introduce signs, either plus or minus, to either of these numbers or both of the numbers. Just make sure you do it in such a way that when you multiply them together, it gives you minus 54x squared. And when you add them together, it gives you 3x. All right? So first of all, let's see which one is going to give us 3x. If I put a minus sign in front of minus 9x and I have minus 9x plus 6x, it's not going to give me plus 3x. But if I put a minus sign here, meaning I have 9x minus 6x, that's going to give me 3x. That's fine. It satisfies the condition that we need. Then when I multiply this together, it's going to give me minus 4x squared. It also satisfies the condition. So we are good to go. So our two factors are 9x and minus 6x. What are you going to do with them? You are going to replace this 3x with this number. So we are having x squared plus 3x minus 54 equals to 0. Replace 3x with what? 9x and minus 6x. All right? Minus 54 equals to 0. So what do you notice? 9x minus 6x still gives us 3x. So this equation is similar to this. So the next thing you need to do is to put in brackets the first two terms and in bracket the second two terms. We are going to factorize them. All right? So we are having x squared plus 9x in brackets. Then we are having minus 6x minus 54 in brackets, and we equate to 0. Now, having done this, what's the next thing you need to do? You need to factorize out a common term, all right, from this first bracket, factorize common term from this second bracket, in such a way that the remaining terms that will be in the bracket are same. Do you understand? So what it means to factorize is to look for a common term that can divide these two numbers. So from this first bracket, what is the common term that can divide these two numbers? All right, what's the common term that can divide these two numbers? We have x. X is the only term that can divide x squared and can also divide 9x. So you bring out x, you open the bracket. So x squared divided by x is going to give me x. Then you put your plus sign. 9x divided by x is going to give me 9. You write it down. Now, we are in the second number. Okay? So also, find a common term that can divide minus 6x and minus 54. You must also include the sign. Now, we can factorize out minus. All right? We can factorize out minus. And we can also factorize 6. So, if you divide minus 6x by minus 6, you are going to be getting x. All right? And if you divide minus 54 by minus 6, you are going to be getting plus 9. So remember that the idea is to factorize in such a way, or divide those two terms by the highest number in such a way that the remaining values in these two brackets are same. If the remaining values in these two brackets are not same, it means that your solving or your solution has an error at some point. So we are left with what? X minus 6 You put these two numbers together in one bracket, the two numbers you use in factorizing, and then you pick one of these brackets, x plus 9 equals to 0. So we're having x minus 6 times x plus 9 equals to 0. The next step is to equate this to 0, also equate this to 0, so you can get the two values of x. Now, the first value of x is going to be what? X equals to 6. And for the second aspect, the second value of x is going to be equal to what? Minus 9. So from our options, as you can see above, we have 5, 3, 6, and 1. So what will be the correct answer? The correct answer is x equals to 6. Do you understand? The correct answer is x equals to 6. Why is the answer not x equals to minus 9? If minus 9 was in the option, picking minus 9 would be wrong, because a base must always be a positive number. Do you understand? We have base from base 2 to base 16 hexadecimal. So there is no negative number in a base. So please take good note of that. Now, one thing you will notice in this kind of questions is that they are not usually that straightforward. All right. A question from number base can lead you to getting a step that you have to solve correctly. Do you understand? So it might not be so straightforward. So you need to have a broad understanding of the respective topics in the math syllabus. Now, having solved the first question, let's move on to the second question. All right, now here's the second question. As you can see above, we are told that if y is equals to 2, 3 base 5 plus 1, 0, 1 base 3, we have to find y and leave our answer in base 2. Okay? Now, y is equals to 2, 3 base 5 plus 1, 0, 1 base 3. They want you to solve and leave your answer in base 2. Here in this aspect, we need to convert each of these numbers to base 10, all right? And then from base 10, we'll convert it to base 2. But you might not necessarily, okay, this is in base 3, all right? So if this number was in base 2, for example, they wrote 2 here, you don't need to convert this to base 10. You only need to focus on this. Convert it to base 10 first, then from base 10, convert to base 2, all right? So it's in base 3. So what we're going to be learning from this question is how to convert numbers from another base, all right, from one base to another base. Okay, so what is the first step? Remember from the first question, I already showed it to you. Your number starting from the right to the left, starting from 0. All right. Why are we doing this? Because we want to first convert these numbers to base 10. So let's convert 2, 3 base 5 to base 10. So it means that we are having here we're having 2 times 5 raised to power 1. I hope you can still recall how we got that. We're having 3 times 5 raised to power 0 plus, 1 times 3 raised to power 2 plus 1 times 3 raised to power 0. Now you notice that I did not have to write 0 times 3 raised to power 1 because I know the value will always be 0. So when you are solving an objective question, you can skip that and just go straight to the point. So let's not waste our time. Now we have 2 times 5, that's 10, plus, remember, 5 raised to power 0 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 9, plus 1. We already know those steps, so I don't need to major on it. Now we are having 10 plus 3 plus 9 plus 1. That's 23. Okay, in base 10. So we have successfully converted these numbers in base 10. So y in base 10 is equal to 23 base 10. But this is not what the question wants us to do. The question wants us to leave our answer in base 2. So we are going to now learn how to convert numbers from base 10 to base 2. So how do you do it? First of all, you draw a table like this. Write the number you're converting here. And the base you want to convert it to, write it here. So we want to convert it to base 2. That's why we have 2 here. If we wanted to convert it to base 4, we'll have 4 here. All right? So now we are going to begin dividing this 23 by 2 and write the remainders. So 23 divided by 2 is going to give us 11, remainder 1. All right? You divide 11 again by 2. 11 divided by 2 is going to give us 5, remainder 1. Divide 5 again by 2, we have 2, remainder 1. Divide 2 again by 2, we have 1, remainder 0. Now we still have a number here. We still have to divide it by 2. But 1 cannot be divided by 2 in this case, meaning we cannot find any 2 in 1. So we'll just write that it's not possible by saying 0, still remaining that 1 that we could not divide. Do you understand? So you put it here. Now that we have gotten all the remainders, what you have to do is run it up. Okay? Run it up. So starting from the bottom to the top, you write the numbers that you have. We have 1, 0, 111 base 2. Do you understand? So this is what we have. So let's cross-check the options. Which of this option is 10111 base 2? That is option B. All right. So option B is the correct answer to this second question. Now we are going to take one more question on number base. And I believe with this understanding, you should be able to solve any question on number base. So let's take one more question. All right. Now, in the third question, we have to divide 1101001 base 2 by 101 base 2. And from the options, you can see they want you to leave your answer in base 2. How do we do this? Now, the easiest way is to convert these numbers to base 10, divide in base 10, and then convert from base 10 back to base 2. Do you understand? So real quick, let's get into it. So first of all, converting these numbers to base 10, we number. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have 0, 1, 2 here. Okay, I'm going to evade all the zeros. So we're going to save time. 1 times 2 raised to the power 6 plus 1 times 2 raised to the power 5. All right, plus 1 times 2 raised to the power 3 plus 1 times 2 raised to the power 0. Okay, so I'm converting these numbers to base 10 now to get equivalent. 2 raised to the power 6 plus 2 raised to the power 5 plus 2 raised to the power 3 plus 1. So this should be 64 plus 32 plus 8 plus 1. All right. So if we solve this, let's quickly do the maths here. 64 plus 32 plus 9. This is 11 plus 4, that's 15. This is 9, that's 105. Okay, so we have 105 base 10 for the first number. All right. Now, how about the second number, 101? So, converting it to base 10, we have 1 times 2 raised to the power 2. All right, plus 1 times 2 raised to the power 0. And this is equals to what? 4 plus 1, which is equals to 5 in base 10. So, in essence, dividing these numbers in base 10, we are having 105 divided by 5. All right, 105 divided by 5 is going to give us 21. All right, it's going to give us 21. So we have 21 in base 10. So we need to convert this 21 in base 10 back in base 2 so that we can get our answers from the options. All right, so you recall how to do that. First of all, you draw your table. Okay, you write the number you want to convert here. You write the base you are converting it to here. So 21 divided by 2 is going to give us what? 10 remainder 1. Also divide 10 again by 2. You're having 5. No remainder. Remainder 0. Divide 5 again by 2. You're having 2 remainder 1. All right. You divide 2 by 2 again. You have 1 remainder 0. Yeah, you have 1 remainder 0. Then 1 divided by 2, you have 0 remainder 1. All right. So what do you do next? You round it up. You round it up. All right. So we are having 10101. Start from the top, the bottom to the top. So you have 10101. So 10101 in base 2. All right. So when you look at the option, the correct answer is option D. You understand? So we have 10101 as the correct answer, and that's option D. So with this, you should be able to solve at least 95% any number-based question you come across in your exam. Now, we're moving on to the next topic, which in this case is fractions, decimal, and approximation. You will always find question in this aspect. So let's get into it. All right, guys. Now, we're in the second section under numbers and numeration. We're dealing with questions on fractions, decimals, and approximations. Okay? So the first question you can see here above says we should simplify one whole number 1 over 4 divided by 2 divided by 1 over 4 of 28. Now, this question is a standard board mass question, so you need the concept of board mass to simplify this question. So, real quick, we have board mass. And with board mass is, what's the word? Let us say is a terminology, all right, or an acronym that helps us to know the approach or the format or the step in which we should simplify a question like this. You understand? So B means bracket, O means off, all right, D means division, M means multiplication, A means addition, and S means subtraction. So what this means is that if you find a bracket first, simplify it first before you multiply. If you find an off sign first, all right, simplify it before you subtract. Do you understand? Solve in the order of odd mass. That's the idea. So here, you can see we have division, we have off, we have a bracket. So first of all, you need to simplify the bracket. So you have to simplify what you have in the bracket first. So let's do that together. First of all, we have this mixed fraction here. Now let's simplify what we have in the bracket. 2 divided by 1 over 4. Off also means times. Change it to times. 28. All right. So remember that it is this off that we have to simplify first, because off comes before division in the bracket. So it means here we're having 1 over 4 divided by 2. Okay. Divided by, now this is 7. All right. 1 over 4 of 28 is 7. All right. Because, 4 times 7 gives us 28. Now we're having here, we'll convert this mixed fraction to an improper fraction. So we'll be having 5 over 4. To do that, we multiply the denominator by the whole number, which is 4. 4 times 1 gives us 4. Then you add that result to the numerator. 4 plus 1 gives us 5. So we're having 5 over 4. Now, divided, we're still dealing with what we have in the bracket. This is 2 divided by 7. This is 2 over 7. Okay. Now, moving forward, we have 5 over 4 divided by 2 over 7. Now, it's a rule in maths that when you want to simplify something like this, you should convert the division sign to multiplication, because it's easier to solve that way. And anytime you are converting division to multiplication, all right, you have to get the reciprocal of the fraction that comes afterward. So what that means is that you swap the numerator and denominator positions. So you'll be having something like 5 over 4 times 7 over 2. You understand? So because we want to convert this division to multiplication, the fraction that comes afterwards must swap its numerator and denominator position. Basically, we are getting the reciprocal of that number. So what if what we have here was a whole number, for example? Let's say what we have here was not 2 over 7, but just 2. What will I write here? You write 1 over 2. Do you understand? Because the reciprocal of 2 is 1 over 2. Do you understand? 2 on its own can be written in a fraction form of 2 over 1. 2 over 1 is the same as 2. But then when you want to get reciprocal, you take the 1 up, you bring the 2 down. So if you have a whole number, just write 1 over that whole number. Take note of that. All right? So let's move further. What we have here now is 5 times 7, which is 35, over 8. Okay? So if you look at the options correctly, it got converted into a mixed fraction. So 35 over 8 is going to give us 4 whole number 3 over 8. You're going to give us 4 whole number 3 over 8. Do you understand? So 8 times 4 is 32. You understand? So we can find 8 in 35 times 4 times. Then there's a remainder of 3 over the denominator. Do you understand? So that's how it works. So the correct answer to that question is option C. So having solved this first question, we're going to take another question on the same aspects of fractions, decimals, and approximations. All right, now we're going to be taking question 2 and question 3. Now, question 2 asks us to simplify 2.04 times 3.7, and we're asked to leave our answer in 2 decimal place. All right. Now, why question 3 says we should convert 0.04945 to 2 significant figures. So how do we do this? You can easily type this into your calculator. All right. And when you do that, you're going to be getting 7.548. Okay. But now this 7.548 is to 3 decimal places. All right. How do you know the decimal place that it is at? You count the number of values you have after the decimal point. So because we have 3 values after the decimal point, this is to 3 dp, or 3 decimal places. So how do we convert to 2 dp? You look at the first two numbers, all right, after the decimal place. We're converting to 2 dp, so we look at the first 2 numbers after the decimal point, all right? And the first 2 numbers are 5 and 4. Now, once you have considered that, look at the number that comes afterwards. If that number is within the range of 5, all right, to 9, you are going to approximate. But if that number is within the range of 0 to 4, you are not going to approximate. Do you understand? So let's consider the number afterwards. The number is higher or within the range of 5 to 9. So we're going to approximate. And how do you approximate? You round off this number to 0, and then you add 1 to the next number. So meaning to 2dt, we are going to be having 7.55. All right. And that should be option D. Do you understand? So we round up. That is the word. We round up. So because this number is within the range of 5 to 9, we round up by reducing it to 0 and adding 1 to the next number. So the correct answer to that question is option D. Okay. Now for this second question, we're asked to convert this to two significant figures. All right. Now for significant figures, you say a value is significant, all right, when that value starts from 1 to 9. So you have to look for the first value that starts from 1. Do you understand? I mean, the first value that is, that is within the range of 1 to 9. And in this case, that first value is 4. So this is the first significant figure. This 4 is the first significant figure. Then the second significant figure is 9. So to 2SF, we are having 0.049. So the first two significant figures here are 4 and 9. Do you understand? So to 2SF, you also have to consider the next number that comes after the two significant figure, which is here in this case is 4. If that number also falls within the range of 0 to 4, you round down. Do you understand? Meaning this number just becomes 0. You are not adding anything to the next number. But if it was within the range of 5 to 9, we'll round it up down to 0. We'll round up rather, the number will change to 0, and then we'll add 1 to the next number. So to 2SF in this case, what we're having is 0.049 to 2SF. Do you understand? So take good note of this. So the correct answer to that question would be option B. Now, having solved questions on the aspect of fractions, decimals, and approximation, moving into the next section, which is indices. So we're looking at questions on indices. All right, now I believe you have seen the rules or the laws guiding solving questions on indices. So let's look at this question together. The question says we should find the value of x if 1 divided by 64 raised to power x plus 2 is equal to 4 raised to power x minus 3 divided by 16 raised to power x. So how do you simplify such an indices question? Let's go through it together. Now, one of the things you have to do when it comes to indices question is to try to make sure that the base of the term is same. Do you understand? Try to make sure that the base of the term is same. Now, let's rewrite this. We're having 1, okay, divided, all right, by 64 raised to power x plus 2. And then this is equals to what? 4 raised to power x minus 3 over 16 raised to power x. Now, we have different numbers here. We have 4 as the base, 64 as the base, 16 as the base in different cases. One thing you will notice is that these values can be expressed as a rational power of a common base. All right? They can be expressed as a rational power of a common base of 2 or a rational power of a common base of 4. What do I mean by that term? For example, if I have a number such as 16, I can express 16 as what? 2 raised to power 4. You understand? What it means is that I've expressed 16 as a rational power of 2. So in this case, you have to find a way to express this number as a rational power of a common number so that they can all have the same base. Now, in this case, 64 can be expressed as a rational power of 4 by saying 4 raised to power 3. Likewise, 16 can be expressed as a rational power of 4 by saying 4 raised to power 2. Meaning, we have now done it in such a way that all these numbers are what? Having a value of what? 4. Now, also, how about this numerator here? We have to do the same for this numerator. How do we do that? 4 raised to power 0 is same as 1. So we are going to express 1 as 4 raised to power 0. Do you understand? So what we are going to be having is 4 raised to power 0 over 4 raised to power 3, open bracket, x plus 2, all right, equals, here we're having 4 raised to power x minus 3 as it is, over 4 raised to power 2, then the x that is there. Do you understand? So the power that was gotten here will be used to multiply this power that was already there. Do you understand? So this is what we're going to be having. So let's get back to it. All right. So what do we do next? Next, we are going to simplify. You can either cross multiply or you solve directly. So this is division. This is division. You can either decide to cross multiply or you just, divide. I think it's better for us to divide. Now, from the laws of indices, when it comes to division, when you have a division like this and the base are same, you take one of the base and what subtract the powers, right? So we're having 4 raised to power 0 minus the whole of this simplification here. So if we expand this, that's going to give us 3x plus 6. All right. 3 times x is 3x plus 3 times 2, that's 6. So we're having 3x plus 6 in that portion. Now, equals to what? 4 raised to power x minus 3, then minus 2x. So remember that what's at the top is subtracting what's at the bottom. So we have minus 2x. Do you understand? Now, it's a rule in indices that when the base of the equation are same, you can cancel them out and equate the powers. So we are going to cancel out this 4 and equate just the powers. So we are having what? 0 minus 3x plus 6. Now, this minus sign is going to affect each and every term in this bracket. So we're having minus times 3x. That's what? Minus 3x. Now, we have minus times plus 6. That's going to give us what? Minus 6. You must be careful in this portion. So that's equals to what? X minus 3 minus 2x. You understand? Now, we are going to collect like terms and simplify. We have minus 3x minus x, then plus 2x equals to what? Minus 3 plus 6. All right? So minus 3x minus x, that's minus 4x. All right? Plus 2x, that's going to give us what? Minus 2x. And this is equals to what? 3. Now, divide both sides by minus 2. We're having that x is equals to what? 3 over minus 2. You understand? So, let's look at the options and let's see which of them is the correct one. Now, the correct answer is option D because it is what? X is equals to what? Minus 3 over 2. Do you understand? So, that is how you simplify a question like this on indices. Now, we're going to also still take another question on indices to solidify our knowledge in this aspect. So, let's get into it. All right, now here's another question on indices. Here we are given that 3 raised by n minus 1 times 27 raised by n plus 1, all right, divided by 1 raised by n is to be simplified. So what are we going to do? Also, notice the base. Always look at the base. We have to express them as a rational power of a common number, all right? And in this case, we can express them as a rational power of 3. 27 is same as 3 raised to power 3, and 81 is same as 3 raised to power 4. Remember, the idea is to express them having a common rational power so that we can simplify further. So let's get into the solution. Now we have 3 raised to power what? N minus 1 times 27 can be expressed as 3 raised to power 3. So we're having open brackets n plus 1 here. 81 can be expressed as 3 raised to power 4. Then we have times the n. You understand? So what can we also still do in this case? We apply the laws of indices, but let's simplify further so that we don't get confused. So here we're having 3 raised to the power n minus 1, all right, times 3 raised to the power 3n plus 3, all divided by what? 3 raised to the power 4n. All right. Now, moving further, we apply the law of indices that says that when they are of the same base, that's the multiplication law, and they are multiplying each other, all right, you take one of the numbers and add the powers. So what we're having in this case is, for the numerator, is 3 raised to the power what? N minus 1 plus 3n plus 3. We're adding the powers. Then the numerator, the denominator rather, comes here, 3 raised to the power 4n. Do you understand? So what are we having next? We simplify the numerator. We have 3 raised to the power 4n plus 2 over 3 raised to the power 4n. Now we apply the division rule. All right. Since we have a common base, we take one of the base and subtract the powers. So we're having 3 raised to the power 4n plus 2 minus 4n. So 4n is going to subtract 4n, that's 0. So we're left to what? 3 raised to the power 2, and that's 9. So the correct answer to this question is option B, as you can see, and that is how we simplify a question like this on indices. Now we're going to take one more question before we move on to the next topic. So let's get into the question. All right, now let's look at the third question. Here we have to simplify 25 raised to the power 1 over 2 times 8 raised to the power minus 2 over 3. Now I'm going to be using a different approach to solve this question, just to broaden your understanding of the topic. So let's see what we have here. Now, 25 raised to the power 1 over 2 can also be written as this. And 8 raised to the power minus 2 over 3 can also be written as this. All right. Now I'm going to write the law that breaks this down. So just take note of the law. Let's say you have something like a raised to the power b over m. You can express it as this. You put a in the square root sign. The denominator m, it's here, and then all raised to the power of the numerator b. Do you understand? So you can express your question like this, because if you look at this, we cannot express these two base as a common rational power to say we will now, add the powers, and then apply the multiplication law of indices. So we can't do that in this case. So you must follow this rule. I believe you have seen a rule similar to this when you were looking at the rules of the laws of indices. So here, what this means is that, what is the square root of 25? All right. When you see 2 inside this portion, it means what's the square root of 25? Here in this case, when you see 3 inside this portion, it means what is the cube root of 8? So they're asking us that what number will multiply twice to give us 25? Here they're asking us what number will multiply itself thrice to give us 8. Do you understand? And here, the square root of 25 is 5. Do you understand? Square root of 25 is 5. So we have 5 times here 1 over, what's the cube root of 8? 2 raised to the power 2. So we're having 5 times 1, which is what? 5, over 2 raised to the power 2, which is 4. Do you understand? So let's look at the options. The correct answer is a mixed fraction here, and it is 1 whole number 1 over 4, and that's option A. So the final answer is 1 whole number 1 over 4, and that's option A. So with this, we have simplified questions on indices, and you are good to go on any question on indices you come across. Now, the next topic we'll be looking at is logarithms. So real quick, let's also get into it. All right, we're in the next topic now, logarithms, and we're looking at the first question here. Here we have to simplify log 1.5 base 10 plus 3 log 2 base 10 minus log 0.3 base 10, just as you can see. All right, how do you simplify a question on logarithm? Now, I believe you have also seen the rules and the laws governing solving questions on logarithm. It's also similar to that of indices, because the base also helps us. All right. You have to try to make sure that the base is same. Try to make sure that the base is same. So you can also simplify logarithms with the same base. You understand? You can simplify logarithms with the same base easily. So in this case, we have addition here, we have subtraction. Now, when you have addition and the base are same, it means that you will pick one of the base and multiply the values. Do you understand? Likewise, in this case that we have subtraction, we are going to apply division. Do you understand? So real quick, I'm going to do it in a very easy way. But first of all, let me simplify this, because before you apply the multiplication law, all right, this value must not be in front of this law. Do you understand? So we'll apply the rule that says that you can take it to this power here. So we're going to be having log base 10, 1.5, all right, plus log base 10, 2 raised to the power 3, minus what? Log base 10, 0.3. Do you understand? Now, another easy way to solve this is to convert this decimal to fraction. Do you understand? But you might not necessarily have to do that. So let's just solve first. So if you want to just express this in the way it's meant to be, what you are going to be having is pick one of the base, pick one of the log base. All right. So we're having log base 10. Then the powers, for the numerator, you are going to multiply this term and this term. Do you understand? So we're having 1.5 times 2 raised to the power 3. All right. This minus means division. So you divide by this value, 0.3. Put it in bracket like this. Now, that explanation might have seemed a little bit abstract, but let me explain further. Let me expatiate. The idea is to look at the base of the logarithm. If they are same, you pick one of the log base. Here, I have picked one of the log base. Then you apply the multiplication and division rule. So for these two logarithm values, the multiplication rule says that when you have plus, you multiply the values whose log you are looking for. So 1.5 times 3 times 2 raised to the power 3. That's what we did. Then for the division, this whole stuff is being divided by this next value, 0.3. You understand? So if you look at the laws again, it's very easy to grasp. When you have addition, multiply the values. When you have subtraction, you divide. Okay? So we're having log base 10, 1.5 times 3 raised to the power 3 divided by 0.3. Now, how do we simplify further from here? What I would have loved to do initially is to convert this decimal to fractions. All right? But we can still do that in this case. So I'm going to do that separately in this portion. So just take note. I'm just going to simplify this aspect. All right? So 1.5 times 2 raised to the power 3 is 1.5, which is in decimal. When you want to convert it to fraction, it is same as 15 over 10. It is same as what? 15 over 10. Then 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. All right? Now, this 0.3 is same as 3 over 10. How did I get that? Now, let me explain in this portion. If you have a value such as 15.2, how do you write it in its fraction form? This is a decimal number. How do you write it in its fraction form? It's going to be 152 over 10. How did I know? Now, first of all, write all the numbers there in the numerator. Just write all the numbers. 152 in numerator. Then, you are going to take a power of 10 depending on the number of values you have after the decimal point. So, if I have two values after the decimal point, it means I'm going to have 10 raised to the power 2 at the denominator. That will be 100 here. But because I have one value after the decimal point, I'm going to be having 10 raised to the power 1. That's 10. If, for example, this was what? 15.22. Okay? If this was 15.22. What I'll be having, I'll first write all the numbers in the numerator, 1522, over 10 raised to the power 2. Why is it raised to the power 2? Because I have two numbers after the decimal place. Not because I wrote 2 here, because I have two numbers after the decimal place. So this is what? 1522 over 100. Do you understand? If I have a number such as what? 15.201, it is going to be what? 15201 over 10 raised to the power 3. Because I have three numbers after the decimal place. Do you understand? So in this case, that we have 0.3, to convert it to fraction, first write the number 0.3. 0.3 is same as 3. So you write that at the numerator. Then 10 is raised to the power of numbers after the decimal place, which is one number. 10 raised to the power 1 is still 10. Do you understand? So that's how you convert a decimal number to a fraction. Okay? So we are going to simplify this, and then we'll get the log of this value real quick without wasting time. Okay, now we're trying to simplify this expression that we have here. Now we can break down from this point. 2 divided by 8 is, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Then 10 divided by 2 is 5. All right. So we are having 15 over 5 times 4 over 3 over 10. Now 5 here is what? 1. 5 in 15 is 3. So at the numerator, we have 3 times 4. That's 12. Divided by 3 over 10. Now, if you want to write this, this is the same as 12 divided by 3 over 10. I remember that I taught you that when you want to simplify something like this, you have to change this division to what? Multiplication. And when you do that, this fraction takes its reciprocal form. So we're having 12 times 10 over 3. Do you understand? So 3 here is 1, 3 here is 4. So we're having times 40. So this is what? The final value is 40, 4 times 10. So in essence, what we have is log base 10 40. What we have is what? Log base 10 40. So let's look at the options again. That's for question 1. All right. You would see that the correct answer there is option B. All right. Log base 10 40. So that is how you simplify a question like this. So where you might be tricked is in you simplifying expressions like this, decimal numbers, division, being able to analyze them carefully and take them to their lowest term. That is where you might be tricked. So, but if you follow the steps carefully, you won't be tricked. All right. So we have solved the first question on logarithm. Now we're going to move on to the second question on logarithm to solidify our knowledge in this aspect. So let's get into it. Now we're dealing with the second question. Here we have to evaluate log 17 base 7, and we're giving several options. Now, in your standard Waec calculator, you might not have values to simplify the log of another base other than base 10. All right, so in your Waec calculator, the log that you have there is already configured to log base 10. So that will help you or aid you to solve this question. But you might not be able to find the log from another base. Like let's say you want to input log base 7 in the Waec calculator. That might not be possible, although I don't know how advanced the Waec calculator is as at now. But during my time, it wasn't like that. So how do you simplify a question like this? We are going to use the change of base rule. So we are going to change this base from base 7 to base 10. Do you understand? And what we are going to do is to apply this law. Let me write it here. So if you have something like this, log b base 8, and you want to simplify, you want to change it to another base, what you can express it as is, you can express it in another base like log c b over log c a. Do you understand? So this value of b, you are going to take this value of b to another logarithm base, let's say base c. You're also going to take this value of a to another logarithm base, let's say base c, but the base must be same. So here, because the Waec calculator is configured to log base 10, if you just type log 5 in Waec calculator, it simplifies it in log base 10. So we're going to use the common base of log base 10. So it means that in this case, what we're going to be having is what? Log 17 base 10 over log 7 base 10. We have taken them to a common base. So in your Waec calculator, just type log 17. That's going to give you a decimal value. All right. So you are going to be having 1.2304 divided by 0.8451. Okay. And this is going to give you an approximate value of 1.455. Do you understand? So if you look at the correct options, the correct answer to this question is going to be option C. Now, you need to note that the log in your Waec calculator is already configured to log base 10. Do you understand? So you must not make any mistake in this aspect. Now, we are going to move to the third question in logarithm. So once we solve this third question, you'll be having at least a 90% understanding of logarithms. So let's get into it. All right, now let's look at the third question together. Here, we are asked to evaluate log 8 base 2 minus log 1 over 9 base 3. One thing you want to do in this question is to, simplify this number in such a way that it is same as the base. All right. You have to express this number in such a way that it's going to have a value that is same as the base. Okay. So this is what I mean. Here, the base is 2. All right. We cannot just simplify log 8 base 2 without using the calculator normally. So what do you want to do? You want to express 8 as a rational power of a common number that is same as the base. So 8 can be expressed as 2 raised to power 3. Now 2 raised to power 3 is a value where the base of 2, where the base, right, 2 is same as the base of the logarithm. Now let me write it down so it does not look too vague. We have log 2 raised to power 3 base 2. I have expressed it as what? A rational power of 2 raised to power 3. Why am I doing that? Because I need the base of this number, all right, which is 8, to be same as the base of the logarithm. Do you understand? So what you need to do is to bring this number, all right, to the front of the base. So we're going to be having 3 log 2 base 2. Remember, there is a law of Ulysses that says you can bring the power to the front of the log. All right. Now we see our subtraction here. What do we do with this next number? We are going to express this 1/9 in such a way that it will have a base that is same as the base of the log. Do you understand? Why are we doing that? We are doing that because there's a law of logarithm that says that when the log of a number is same as the base, the result is always 1. For example, you have log 10 base 10, the answer is 1. Log 5 base 5, the answer is 1. So we want to try and express these values in such a way that we can simplify. Do you understand? Like in this case now, log 2 base 2 is going to give me 1. So let's see how we simplify this other part. Now, we have log, all right, base 3. Now 1/9 is same as 3 raised to power minus 2. All right, but let me take it step by step. We have 1/what? 3 raised to power 2 here. Okay. Now, when you simplify further, it gives you 3 raised to power minus 2. All right. 1/3 raised to power 2 is 3 raised to power minus 2. If you have something like 1/5, that's 5 raised to power minus 1. If you have something like 1/3 raised to power 4, you understand that's 3 raised to power minus 4. So take note of all those simplifications. Okay. So in this case, we're also going to bring this minus 2 to the front of the log. So we're having 3 log 2 base 2 minus, then this minus 2 comes to the front. All right. Log 3 base 3. Do you understand? So that's what we're going to do in this case. Now let's move on to this aspect. We're having 3 log 2 base 2. Now log 2 base 2 is 1. So that means we're having 3 times 1, which is what? 3. All right. Let's just put it like this, 3 times 1. Now we have minus times minus 2. That's what? Plus 2. Now log 3 base 3 is going to give me 1 also. So that's 2 times 1. So what I'm having eventually is 3 times 1 plus 2 times 1, which is what? 3 plus 2. And that's going to give me 5. So that is how you simplify a question like this on logarithm. Okay. So if we look at the options, the correct answer is option D. That's 5. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is sequence and series. I'm also going to attempt 3 similar questions that would help you familiarize yourself with that topic. So let's get into it, guys. All right, now we are going to be taking the first question under sequence and series. And usually this section is divided into 2 majorly: arithmetic progression and geometric progression. So I believe you have seen all the formulas that is required for you to solve a question on this topic. Now let's look at the first question above. Now the question says we should determine the third term of a geometric progression whose first and second term are 2 and 54 respectively. Okay, so let's write down the parameters needed to solve this question. We have to find the third term, that's T3, of a GP. All right, so we don't know T3, that's what we're looking for, whose first term, that's A or T1, is equals to what? 2. And the second term, T2, is equals to 54. Okay, so we need to find T3. Now, T1 is usually the first term, and the first term in a GP is represented as A. Do you understand? So, what do we do in this case? We need the nth term formula of a GP to proceed. Right? And that nth term formula is Tn equals A r raised to power n minus 1. Now, A is the first term, like I told you, and R is what is known as the common ratio. The common ratio is the division between like the second term and the first term, the third term and the second term, the fourth term and the third term, more like the difference between two consecutive terms in that geometric progression or series. Do you understand? So here, this nth term helps us to find a particular term. So if, for example, I want to find T4, I'm going to use this nth term formula. If I want to find T7, I'm going to use this nth term formula. So it means that what we need to find T3 here is R, because in T3, N is already 3. All right? We already have A, which is the first term. But what I need is R. I already know my M, I know my A. What I need is R so that I can find my T3 using this formula. So how do I get my R? How do I get R? R is the common ratio like I mentioned. Now, we are going to express this T2 in terms of the nth term formula so that we can use it to find R. Do you understand? So this is what we're going to do. So we're going to say T2 in terms of the nth term formula is what? AR raised to power 2 minus 1, which is same as what? AR raised to power 1, which is same as AR. All right? What am I doing in this case? Now look closely. I'm expressing this T2 equals to 54 in terms of the nth term formula. Meaning I'm saying T2 is equals to what? A times R raised to power what? 2, which is N, minus 1. I'm just expressing it in terms of the nth term formula. So it means that T2 is same as what? AR. It means that 54 is same as what? AR. So 54 from this equation is equal to what? AR. Do you understand? And I already know my A. My A is 2. So if I impute 2 here, I can find R. Do you understand? So 54 is equals to what? A, which is 2, times R. So if I find R, it means that it is what? 54 over 2. And R is equals to, that's 27. Do you understand? So R in this case is equals to 27. So since I know my R, I can then find T3. What is T3? We need to express T3 in terms of the nth term formula. All right? So T3 is equals to what? A times R raised to power N minus 1. What is N? N is what? 3. So that's 3 minus 1. So that's what? AR raised to power 2. Do you understand? So if, for example, you have to find T5, T5 will be AR raised to power 4. T7 will be AR raised to power 6. T9 will be AR raised to power 8. T10 will be AR raised to power 9. Do you understand? So you are just subtracting 1 from that power. Okay, you get the concept. So we are looking for AR raised to power 2. So what is T3? T3 is equals to what? 27. Okay, let's start with A first, sorry. A is 2, so that's 2 times 27 raised to power 2. Do you understand? So this value is going to be our T3. So let's look at what we have here. Okay? So what we have here is 2 times 729, and that's going to give us what? 1458. So the correct answer to this question is option A. So this is how you solve a question on geometric progression. This aspect of sequence and series is a question on geometric progression. How do you know a geometric progression? A geometric progression is characterized by a common ratio, R. Do you understand? If it was an arithmetic progression question, we'll be dealing with what we call a common difference, D. All right? So let's take a second question on this topic, sequence and series. So let's get into it. All right, guys. Now we're dealing with the second question. And the question asks us to find the nth term of the sequence 3, 9, 27, 81. And we're given several options. Now, what would you notice? Usually, the nth term helps us to define a particular term in that series or progression. All right. Now, we have the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So we need an nth term to help us know, oh, what would be the seventh term? If this was to continue in a progression, what would be the seventh term? Or what would be the eighth term? That is what that nth term is going to help us to find. So we need that nth term formula. So how do we get the nth term formula? Now, if you look carefully at these options, the options will direct you most of the time. If you look at the options, you notice that we have a common number, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, right? So it means that 3 is definitely going to be there in the nth term. 3 is there. But what are we multiplying 3 with? Now, if we look at this first term, if we multiply 3, okay, let's also look at this portion. We have a value which is 3. So let's put it there. Now, if you look at the first term, all right, if we multiply 3 with 3 raised to power 1, we are going to get, okay, if we multiply 3 with 3 raised to power 0, we are going to get 3. Do you understand? So we are going to get A, which is the first term, because 3 raised to power 0 is 1. Now, for the second term, if we multiply 3 with 3 raised to power 1, you are going to get the second term, which is 9. Do you understand? Also, if you multiply 3 with 3 raised to power 2, you are going to get this term, because this will be 9 times 3, that's 7. And likewise, if you multiply 3 with 3 raised to power 3, you are going to get 81. So from this progression, how can you derive the nth term? What do you think will be the nth term? All right. Now, here, this is T1. Okay, this is T2, this is T3, this is T4. Do you understand? So, in this case, n is equals to 0. In this case, n is equals to 1. In this case, n is equals to 2. In this case, n is equals to 3. In this case, n is equals to 4. All right? Now, normally, if we are going to put n here, it will mean that n minus 1 gives us the value that is here. This is n. All right? If I say n minus 1, I get the value that is here. If I say n minus 1 again, I get the value that is here. If I say n minus 1, I get the value that is here. Remember, n here is 1, n here is 2, n here is 3, n here is 4. So if I say n minus 1, I get 0. If I say n minus 2, I get 1. If I say n minus 1, which is 1 minus 1, I get 0. If I say n minus 1, which is 2 minus 1, I get 1. If I say n minus 1, which is 3 minus 1, I get 2. If I say n minus 1, which is 4 minus 1, I get 3. So it means that the correct answer for the nth term will be a value such that we are having Tn is equals to 3 times 3 raised to power n minus 1. So if I want to find T5, it will be what? 3 times 3 raised to power n minus 1, that's 4. Because n here will be 5. Then 5 minus 1, that's 4. So that's what will allow me to get the next number. If I want to find T6, it will be 3 times 3 raised to power 6 minus 1, that's 3 raised to power 5. So the correct answer is option B. Do you understand? So the correct answer to get such a sequence is option B. Now, it is not all the time that the question might come like this. But when you also look at the options and you try to use the options to solve this sequence, you can tell which will be the correct answer. Do you understand? So this is the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. So if, for example, now I put n as 1 to get this first term, if I use this, will it give me this? If I put n as 2 now, if I use this formula to solve, will it give me this? If I put n as 3 here, all right, if I use formula to solve, will it give me this? That's the question you ask yourself, and then you can use the options to justify which of them, would give you the correct sequence or series or progression. So having solved this, let's move to the third question on arithmetic progression. All right. Now, this question is going to deal with sum to infinity. Do you understand? So I'm going to give us the formula and I'm going to solve it, and that will be all for sequence and series. Then we'll move to the next topic. So let's get into it. All right. Now, in this question, we have to find the sum to infinity of the series 1 over 4, 1 over 8, 1 over 16. All right. And we're giving several options. Now, to solve any question on sum to infinity, you use the formula of S infinity equals to A over 1 minus R. What this sum to infinity means is that if this number continues, all right, unending, if this series continues without end, usually this dot that you are seeing shows you that it's not a definite sequence. It's indefinite, meaning it does not have an ending. All right, that's what it means. So if this value continues, and I start adding all the results I'm getting together, what will be the sum of all the results I'm getting together from this continuous series? Do you understand? That's what sum to infinity means. So this is a formula we use to solve such a question. Now, here we have A over 1 minus R. What is A? A is the first term. So already we are given A from the question, 1 over 4. Now we need to find R. And what is R? R is common ratio. R, like I told you, usually this term divided by this term, or this term divided by this term. Basically, the division between two consecutive terms are following each other. So I can simply find my R first. Let's find R. So R in this case is equals to T2 over T1, and that is equals to what? 1 over 8 divided by 1 over 4. Applying the multiplication rule, we have times 4 over 1, and this is going to give us what? 1 over 2. So R is 1 over 2. So A already is what? 1 over 4. And then we have 1 minus 1 over 2. You understand? So let's simplify further. Okay. Now, we're going to simplify denominator first. Okay. Or let me change it to this form, 1 over 4 divided by, 1 minus 1 over 2. Now, 1 minus half is going to give us half. Imagine you have 1 and you remove half. What are you going to be left with half? Right? So we have 1 over 4 divided by half. Do you understand? So this is going to give us what? 1 over 4 times 2 over 1. Following the division to multiplication rule. Remember, this takes a reciprocal form. So this is going to give us what? 1 over 2. So the correct answer to this question is option A. You understand? So that's how you solve a question like this. Now, any question that comes along the lines of arithmetic progression, you just simply apply the rules or the formulas rather to simplify a question on arithmetic progression, just as you saw in the formulas that was displayed on the board previously before we started solving on this topic. So now we're moving on to the next topic, which is set. All right, you always find questions on set. So real quick, let's also get into it. All right, now we're dealing with the first question on the set. And this question reads that X and Y are two sets such that the cardinality of X is 15, the cardinality of Y is 12, and the cardinality of X intersection Y is 7. We're asked to find the cardinality of the union of X and Y. Now, what does cardinality mean? The symbol N here means that this set contains a total number of 15 elements. All right? In a set, we have well-defined unique elements, objects that are contained inside it. For example, let's say I have a basket that is filled with apples and oranges. The apples and oranges that are in that basket are the elements, while the basket itself is the set that houses those elements, the apples and oranges in this case. Okay? So we have different operations in sets, all right? And the very common operations that you would always find questions on are intersection, union, complements, and the likes. So let's see how we're going to simplify this question. Now, we have that the cardinality of 15, the cardinality of X rather is 15, cardinality of Y is 12, and the cardinality of X intersection Y is 7. But I have to find the cardinality of X union Y. So what I'm going to do is to use a Venn diagram to simplify this so that you can conceptualize it. All right, so let me draw a Venn diagram. Now, a Venn diagram is characterized by a rectangular box, and that rectangular box represents the universal set U. All right, universal set U is given like this. So this rectangular box represents the universal set. Then the subsets that are contained in this universal set are represented in circles. So here we have two subsets, X and Y. So I am going to draw two circles that are intersecting themselves because this is a not disjoint set. All right. When you say they are not disjoint, meaning the sets are intersecting themselves. Do you understand? So let's call this set X and let's call this set Y. Now, we are told that X contains 15 elements. So in this whole circle of X, there are 15 elements. So let's just say X equals 15 here. And in this circle of Y, there are 12 elements. Let's say Y equals 12. All right. And now we are told that X intersection Y is 7, meaning the elements that can be found in both X and Y is 7. The symbol N here, the symbol that looks like N, which represents intersection, means what are the common elements that you can find in those elements, in those sets rather? What are the common elements you can find in those sets? So X and Y are two different sets, but they have a common element. They have common elements, 7 common elements. Do you understand? So those 7 common elements are represented here because this is where X and Y intersect. This is where they meet. So the common elements they have should be within this portion. Do you understand? Now, this whole circle that you are seeing represents all the elements that can be found in X. And we're told that all the elements that can be found in X is 15. But this whole circle belongs to X. If one portion of this whole circle is already 7, what will be this other portion? That's what we need to find. Do you understand? That's what we need to what? Find. So if one portion is already 7, this other portion is going to be 8. Because 8 plus 7 is going to give us a total of 15. That's what makes this set X contain a total of 15 elements. Now for set Y, we are told that it should contain 12 elements. But we can see that in this circle of Y, one portion is already 7. Do you understand? Remember that this 7, X and Y are both sharing it. So this 7 belongs to X, it also belongs to Y. So for this circle of Y, we already have 7. So what will be left to make it a total of 12? That's what we need to find. And that will be what? 5. Do you understand? So in a Venn diagram, what does this 8 mean? This 8 means that these elements are peculiar to only 8. You cannot find, they are peculiar to only X. You cannot find these 8 elements in set Y. They are not there at all. Notice where the 8 is. The 8 is not anywhere inside of the circle of Y. So it's peculiar to what? X only. Now this 5, you notice that it's not anywhere inside the circle of X. It's only in Y. It's peculiar to Y. So it is in what? Y only. So there are these 5 elements. You can never find them in X. That's what these portions mean. Do you understand? Whereas these 7 elements, they can be found in both X and Y. Now the question says we should find the cardinality of X union Y. So they want us to find all the elements that you can find in both X and Y. All those elements that are there, they want us to give them the value. How do you get the union of X and Y? The union of X and Y are all the elements that you can find in all of X and all of Y. Meaning all these elements that you are seeing here that you have mentioned, add them together. So X union Y is all this shaded portion like this. You understand? This X union Y. Meaning the elements of X and Y, bring them together. That's X union Y. Do you understand? So X union Y is what? 8 plus 7 plus 5. That's the cardinality of X union Y. So 8 plus 7 plus 5 is going to give us 20. Okay? So if you look at the correct options, the answer to this question is option D. Okay? The answer to this question is option D. So this is how you solve a question in set. All right? Venn diagram helps us to conceptualize the question so that you don't rack your brain too much. Okay? Now let's get into the second question in set. All right, now let's look at the second question. Here, we are given that A is equals to 1, 5, 7, meaning the set A contains the elements of 1, 5, and 7. Set B contains the elements of 3, 9, 12, and 15. Set C contains the elements of 2, 4, 6, and 8. And we have to find A union B union C. How do you solve a question like this? This question is simply asking us to find all the elements that can be found in A, B, and C. So bring them together and ensure there is no repetition, meaning you must not write one number twice. Okay? So it's a very simple question. All you just need to do is look at all the elements here and merge them together. So let's start with smallest number. We have 1. All right, merge all of them together. We have 2. Do we have 3? No, we have 4. We have 5. We have 6. We have 7. We have 8. We have 9. We don't have 10. We don't have 11. We have 12. We don't have, okay, we have 13. No. Well, we have 15. So I think that's all. So look at all the options and look for the option that contains all these values, and that should be option A. Do you understand? So that's what this A union B union C means. Just bring all the values together that are inside of all these sets. Do you understand? Now, if this was A intersection B, if instead of the symbol U, the symbol N was written here, this was A intersection B, what that will mean is that look for the common elements in A and B. For example, in this question, there are no common elements in A and B. So if, for example, the question says find the common elements in A and B, the answer will be that A intersection B is a null set because no element exists between A and B. Do you understand? So that is how you represent a null set, meaning an empty set does not exist. There is no intersection between what A and B. So take note. Now we're going to take the third question on set, all right, and then we'll wrap up with the topic. So let's get into it. All right, guys, now let's look at the third question. Here, we are given that S and T are sets of real numbers such that S contains the elements that are within the range of what? 0 less than or equals to X less than or equals to 5. And T contains the range of numbers that are within -2 less than X less than 3. I will have to find S union T. All right. Now, what we have here are compound inequalities. okay, whose range of value of x you need to find before you simplify. All right, and afterwards, we also have to leave our answer in that compound inequality form. So, how do you simplify a question like this? It's very simple. For the first set, all right, write out this first value. So, we want to get the range of values for s now. All right, so for s, I'm going to first write out the first inequality. 0 is less than or equals to x. Now, I always want to make sure that this x is on this left-hand side. All right, so I'm going to rearrange this. So if 0 is less than or equals to x, it means that x is greater than or equals to 0. Just like I say 2 is greater than 1. If I want to say it another way, I can say 1 is what? Less than 2. So that's what we're doing here. So 0 is less than or equals to x. Then if I want to write it another way, I'm saying that x is what's greater than or equals to 0. Do you understand? Now, the other part is x is less than or equals to 5. So you write the other part, x is less than or equals to 5. Now, I want x to always be here, so that's fine. All right? So, x is a number that is greater than or equals to 0, but also less than or equals to 5. X is a number that is what? Greater than or equals to 0, but also less than or equals to 5. Now, anytime you see this, the strict inequality, or rather the slack inequality, all right, of less than or equals to, or as long as you see this equals to sign in both sides of the compound inequality, just start the range of values from the least number to the highest number here. Note, anytime you see this slack inequality, all right, and this equals to sign is there on both sides of the compound inequality, all right, just start the range of the values of x from 0 to this highest number here. So it means that the range of values for set x contains the elements of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is it. Do you understand? That is it. Now, for the next set, which is set t, we're also going to write this first part, all right, which is what? Minus 2 less than x. Now, I told you, let's always try to make sure that the x is on this side. So if I'm going to write this, this is what? S greater than what? Minus 2. Now, for the other part, we have x less than 3. So x is already on the left-hand side, so that's fine. So x is a value that ranges from what? Minus 2. It is greater than minus 2, but it is less than 3. So the first number that is greater than minus 2, that's where the range of x starts from. This greater than sign is what you call a strict inequality. All right? We have two strict inequality, greater than and less than. We have two slack inequalities, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to. Do you understand? So you call this strict inequality because they are defining what it is. It is greater than. But this is slack because it can be greater than, it can be equals to. Do you understand? So just take note of that on the side. Now, the range of values of x for set t, all right, the elements that set t should contain, are values of x that are greater than minus 2, but less than 3. So meaning you are going to start the range from a value that is greater than minus 2. And the first value that is greater than minus 2 is minus 1. That's the first value that is greater than minus 2. So we have that set t is going to contain elements starting from what? Minus 1. Then you continue. When minus 1 is increasing, the next value will be 0, followed by what? 1, followed by 2. Now, we are told that x is also what? Less than 3. So the next number, or the first number that is less than 3, is where you are going to stop, which is what? 2. So the range of values for t are what? Minus 1, 0, 1, and 2. And that's how you get the range of value. And you get the range from a compound inequality like this. After you have done that, you have your elements for set S and the elements for set T. The question now says we should find the union between S and T, meaning merge all the numbers that you can find in S and T. Merge all the elements together. That's what union means. Bring them together. The union. Do you understand? So S union T, in this case, will contain the elements starting from what? Minus 1. That's the least number there. Minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. Now I've gotten the range of values. Sometimes your options might be gracious enough to have it in this form. All right. But if it's not in this form, how do you convert this now to be in a compound inequality form? Do you understand? So it is very simple. Let's look at what we have in the options. Let's look at what we have in the options. So if we start from okay, let's see. In the options, we have strict inequality and slack inequality. There are different ways to go about it, but you always want to make sure that what you are doing matches the options. So one thing you can do now, in this case, is to look at the range. All right, let's express them. You can express this now in a strict inequality form. If it was in a strict inequality form, all right, it will be something like, let's say x is greater than, start from the least number. What is x greater than first? The first number that x will be greater than -2. X is greater than -2, and x is less than 5. Can you see? X is greater than -2, x is less than 5. If you find the numbers that are greater than -2, it will start from -1. And then that range of number, it now stops at the point where it is less than 5. The first number, okay, it's not less than 5, rather. In this case, we can say less than 6. Because the first number that will be less than 6 will be what? 5. This is one way of representing this. What is the other way you can represent this? I can decide to say that, okay, x is greater than -2, and x is what? Less than or equals to 5. All right? When I say it is less than or equals to 5, it means that I want you to stop the counting of the range at 5. That's what this slack inequality means. Stop it here. Do you understand? So start from the first number that is greater than -2, which is what? -1. Then stop at what? 5. So this is another way of representing this same range of values. This is one compound inequality, is another one. So which other one again do we have? You can represent it as what? X is greater than or equals to -1, and x is what? Less than or equals to 5. This is another way you can represent it. Do you understand? Another way you can represent this is that what? X is greater than or equals to -2, and x is less than 6. Do you understand? These are the 4 different ways you can represent this. They all tell you the same thing if you analyze it. Do you understand? They all tell you the same thing if you analyze it. Here, it means that starts from -2. Stop at the first number that is less than 6. That's what it means. So you now have to look at your options and look at the one that is in that range. Okay? Now, if we look at it carefully, if you look at option B, okay, option B says that x is greater than -2 and less than or equals to 5. So it's a mixture of what? A strict inequality and a slack inequality. Do you understand? It's a mixture of that. Remember that if you want to now represent this in the compound form, the value that is greater will be on the right hand side. All right? The value that is greater will be on the right hand side. Don't be confused. I'm going to explain better so that you see how to get it. Now, this is our right answer that corresponds with the option. Although all these are also right answers, but this is the one that corresponds with the option. Okay? So how do I write this? You want to make sure that the number that is having the highest value is on the right hand side. So you're having x less than or equals to 5. Now you have to look for how you will attach this number to this part. All right? Such that x will be on the left hand side. So here in this first part, x is on the what? Right hand side. So we have x greater than -2. If I want to write it another way, I can write this as what? -2 less than x. Do you understand? I can write this as what? Since x is greater than -2, if I want to say it in another way, it is what? -2 less than x. If x is greater than -2, it means -2 is less than x. So why did I write like this? -2 is less than x. So that x can be in the middle of the representation. Do you understand? So that is the idea. So now, if you look at the options, the correct answer is option B. We have -2 less than x less than or equals to 5. And that is the range of values. So that's why I told you initially there are different ways you can represent this, but you need to know the one that matches your option. So with this, we'll solve the major questions on sets. All right. Now we're going to move into the next topic, which is SORT. All right. So let's get into it. All right, now we'll be looking at these 3 questions on SORT. The first question that we have here, we are asked to simplify root 30 times root 40. Okay, so how do you simplify a question like this? Now, to simplify a SORT problem, you have to look for a perfect square that multiplies another number to give you the value you have in the SORT. Now, we have 30 in this SORT and we have 40 in this SORT. So to simplify this, look for a number that multiplies a perfect square to give you what you have here. Do you understand? So that's the way we are going to go about it. So, okay. Now, for this particular question, you can also solve it by multiplying the two values you have in the sword. Do you understand? Because if you actually look at 30 alone, there is no perfect square that will multiply another number to give us 30. So we won't follow that approach. But the standard approach is to look for a number that multiplies a perfect square to give you what you have in the square root side. So here, 30 times 400 is going to give us 1,200. Right now, if we apply that rule, a perfect square that works is 400. Okay? 400 is a perfect square, which when we multiply with 3 gives us 1,200. So you can further expand by saying 400 times root 3. Okay? And the square root of 400 is 20. Do you understand? Then multiply by root 3, it becomes 20 root 3. So the correct answer to that question is option C. Now, in this question here, we're asked to divide 5 by 2 minus root 3. Okay? Now, in simplifying a problem like this, it's a rule in maths that when you solve and the fraction you're having, the denominator is a surd form, you are meant to rationalize. Okay? And to rationalize, you have to multiply both the numerator and denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. Now, what is the conjugate? Here, the conjugate is 2 plus root 3 over 2 plus root 3. Okay? So, what's the conjugate? The conjugate is just you simply changing the sign here, all right, from minus to plus. If it was plus, you change it to minus. So, we are multiplying both the numerator by the conjugate, also multiplying the denominator by the conjugate. Do you understand? So, for the numerator now, if we multiply all through, we are having 5 times 2 plus root 3. So you use 5 to multiply 2 first, that gives us 10. Then you put the plus sign. 5 times root 3 is going to give us 5 root 3. Over, now for this aspect, we are using this first bracket to multiply this second bracket. Okay, and in doing this, you are going to use this first number to multiply each and every term here. Then you move on to use the second number to multiply each and every term here. All right, so we're having 2 times 2, that's 4. Then 2 times root 3, that's 2 root 3. Now, this other portion, we're having minus 2 root 3. Okay? Minus root 3 times root 3 is going to give us minus 3. Alright? So, minus times minus, that's plus. Root 3 times root 3 is going to give us 3. So, you remember the rules and the laws that apply to surd. Now, we can simplify further. Now, in the numerator, we have 10 plus 5 root 3. At denominator, you have 2 root 3 minus 2 root 3. That's going to give us 0. So I left it was 4 minus 3, and that's 1. So it means our final answer is going to be 10 plus 5 root 3. Okay? So that's how you rationalize and simplify a problem like this. So if you look carefully at the options, the correct answer was actually factorized. So we can still factorize. So looking for a common term that can divide both 10 and 5 root 3. All right? So that common term is 5. Solving further, we have 5. Open brackets 2 plus root 3. You understand? So if you look closely, you see that the correct answer is option C. All right? So the correct answer to this question is option C. Now let's look at another question. Now in this question, we have 4 root 27 plus 5 root 12 minus 3 root 75. Now to simplify this, you need to make sure that the surds are of a common value. All right, you need to make sure that the surds have a common value. Here, if you are to simplify the surd, you'll be having 9 times 3, which is 27, because 9 is the perfect square. I can multiply on that number to give you 27. Here, you'll be having 3 times 4, and here, you'll be having, you'll be having 5 times 9. Do you understand? You'll be having 5 times 9. Here you'll be having 25 times 3. All right. So let's simplify further. We have 4, open bracket. This is 9 times 3. All right. Plus 5, open bracket. This is 4 times 3 minus 3. All right. Open brackets. The square root of 25 times 3. All right. Now, one thing you will notice is that we can break down this surd in such a way that they will be having a coefficient of root 3. Do you understand? So you can only add surds with the same coefficient. For example, if you have something like 2 root 3 plus 4 root 3, that's going to give you what? 6 root 3. So you can only add surds together that have the same coefficient of surd. So for example, you cannot add 2 root 3 plus 2 root 4. You can't add them together. Why? Because the roots are not of the same coefficient. So that is it. So here we'll be having 4, right? Then root 9 times root 3, okay? Plus 5, open brackets, root 2 times root 3, all right? Plus 3, open brackets, root 5 times root 3. You understand? So root 9 is going to give us 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. We're having 12 root 3 here. Plus here, we're left with 5. Okay, sorry, this is meant to be root 4. All right. So root 4 is 2. That's 4 times 2. And that's going to give us 10. All right. So we're having 5 times 2, 10 root 3. Minus is another little error. So I still meant to have so we are still going to have root 25 here. So that is 3 times 5, and that's going to be 15. Okay, 15 times root 3. That's 15 root 3. So you can add all of them together now because they have the same coefficient. You understand? They have the same coefficient of root 3. So 12 plus 10 is 22, then minus 15. Do you understand? So 22 minus 15 is going to give us 7. So the final answer is going to be 7 root 3. Do you understand? So it's very easy to solve surd problems. You just need to look at the value you are given, all right? Try to look for a perfect square that can multiply another number to give you what you have inside the surd, and then you simplify. Do you understand? So it's very easy. Now, moving on to the next topic, we're going to solve questions on matrices and determinants. All right, now we're in the aspect of matrices and determinants. Let's look at this matrix question together. Now, what you have here is a 3 by 3 matrix. How do you know it's a 3 by 3 matrix? You know that it's a 3 by 3 matrix because of the number of rows and number of columns it has. So you name a matrix row by column. So you count the number of rows it has. This is a row, all right? When you move horizontally, that's a row. So this is the first row, this is the second row, and this is the third row, all right? So it has 3 rows and 3 columns. When you move vertically, it's a column, is the first column, second column, third column. So it's a 3 by 3 matrix. So this question wants us to find the determinant of the matrix. How do you find the determinant of the matrix? Now, it's very easy, and I'm going to be using a very easy method so that you can actually solve easily. So the method I'm going to be showing you is this method here. So what you want to do is to put the matrix in a straight line like this. 2 minus 1, 4, 1, 3, 6 minus 1, 5. All right. Now repeat the first column and the second column in this portion. So you're having 3, 2, minus 1, and 4, 1, 3. All right. Now, starting from these first 3 columns, we are going to multiply diagonally to get a result. So multiply diagonally in this order. Can you see the way I'm doing it? So 3 times 1 times 5 is 15. Write the value here. Now move to the next number. 4 times minus 1 times minus 1. That's going to give us 4. Multiply diagonally like this. All right? Multiply diagonally again like this. So 6 times 2 is 12. And 12 times 3, that's going to give us, that's 36. All right? So do you see the way? Consider these first 3 numbers. You multiply diagonally like that to get those values. Now, Also, we'll do same starting from the right-hand side. All right? Starting from these last three numbers, multiply diagonally like this. So 4 times 2, 8. 8 times 5 is 40. You move like this again. All right? 3 times minus 1 is minus 3 times 3. That's minus 9. All right? Now we have 6 times 1 times minus 1. That's going to give us minus 6. All right? Now the values that you have here are referred to as x, and the value that you have here are referred to as y. So the determinant of this matrix will be the sum of the values of x minus the sum of the values of y. Do you understand? So sum up 36 and 19, that's going to give you 55. Do you understand? So x is 55 and 19. So we have 40 minus 15. All right? When you subtract, we're having 25. All right? So y is what? 25. So the determinant of this matrix is x minus y, and x minus y is 55 minus 25, and that's going to give us 30. Okay? So the correct answer to this question is option C. So this rule is known as Saror's rule. This is how you solve a matrix question using Saror's rule. All right? Now let's solve the second question. Now in the second question, we have a matrix A, 3 minus 2, 1, and 6. All right? And we're asked to find the inverse of matrix A. Now, what will be the name of this matrix? This matrix here is a 2 by 2 matrix. All right? This is a 2 by 2 matrix because it has 2 rows and 2 columns. You understand? So how do you solve for the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix? You are going to use the formula of A equals 1 over the determinant of A times the adjoint of A. Do you understand? Now, the adjoint of a 2 by 2 matrix has a standard formula. You understand? The adjoint of a 2 by 2 matrix has a standard formula, and we're going to use that formula to get the adjoint. All right? So this is a representation of what the adjoint would look like. So if, for example, you have elements A, B, C, D, all right, the adjoint is going to be something like this: D, A, minus B, minus C. All right, so take note. The adjoint is going to be like this. Now, this only applies to a 2 by 2 matrix. All right, if this was a 3 by 3 matrix, you would have to solve for the transpose of each of the cofactors that you are going to get. Do you understand? So that's a little bit more complex. You have to solve for the transpose of each cofactor you are going to be getting. That's how you get the adjoint. But in this case, for a 2 by 2 matrix, which is an easy question you likely find, you just simply need to swap the position of these two elements. You understand? Then you add a minus sign to these two parts. Do you understand? So for our question now, we'll first solve for the determinant of this matrix. And to solve for the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix, you multiply like this. All right? You first multiply like this diagonally, 6 times 3. So the determinant is 6 times 3, that's 18. Then minus the product of these two next number. Do you understand? Minus 2 times 1 is what? Minus 2. So we're having 18 minus 2, and that's going to give us 18 plus 2. So that's 20. So the determinant is 20. All right? Now, how about the adjoint? The adjoint in this case, our adjoint is going to be what? 6, 3, 2, minus 1. Do you understand? So recall how we got it, right? We have these two values changing position, then we add a minus sign to these two position. Do you understand? So that's how we got it. But we are not done with the question. So let's continue from this portion. Remember that we are looking for the inverse. We're looking for the inverse. So let me put it like this, a raised to 1 minus 1. So that's the formula for the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix. Now, what are we going to do next? We're going to apply the formula for the inverse. So since we have the determinant, so that's 1 over 20 times the adjoint. Now, what's going to happen next is that this value is going to multiply each and every element here to get your final value. So it means we're having 1 over 20 times 6. So we're having 6 over 20 here. Here we're having 2 over 20. So these values multiply each and every element. Here we're having minus 1 over 20. And here we're having a over 20. All right, you can simplify further, take it to the lowest term. If you do that, you'll be having 3 over 10. You'll be having 1 over 10. You'll be having minus 1 over 20 and 3 over 20. All right, you know that to take it to the lowest term, you just have to divide the numerator and denominator by a common value. So if you look closely at the options that we have here, the correct answer is option D. Do you understand? So that is how you solve a question like this. Now, we'll solve one more question on matrix before we wrap up. Now, if you look at this third question closely, you can see that we have two different matrices, matrix A and matrix B. All right, matrix A here is a 3 by 2 matrix, and matrix B is a 2 by 2 matrix. So we are asked to find the product. Now, how do you find the product of such a matrix? It's very easy. You are going to multiply row by column. All right, you are going to multiply row by column. So I'm multiplying matrix A with matrix B. And to do that, you use each row in matrix A to multiply each column in matrix B. Do you understand? So this is what we are going to be having. Now, you use this first row to multiply this first column to get the value that will be this position. So you have 2 times 3. That's going to give you what? 6. Then you add that to the product of 1 and 4. That's going to give you 4. That is the element you are going to have in this first position. Now, in the second position, which is here, you are still going to use this row to multiply the column. So you must use each row to multiply each and every column. So for this first row column multiplication, you write the value here. The next one, row column multiplication, you write the value here. So you are using this first element, 2 to multiply 2. That's going to give you what? 4. You add that to 1 times 2. That's going to give you 2. You understand? Now we are done with the first row. Now move to the second row. Okay? For this second row, you use this to multiply this column also. So you have 2 times 3. That is 6. Then plus 3 times 4. That is 12. Now, we move on to the second column. You have 2 times 2. That is 4. Plus 3 times 2. That is 6. Now, we're done with the second column. Move on to the third. We are done with the second row, rather. Move on to the third row. So we have 1 times 3. That is what? 3. Then 2 times 4. That is 8. You add that. So 1 times 2 again is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So you need to be very, very, very careful when doing this. So the idea is that you're using the rows to multiply each column. Do you understand? And you're adding a value while doing that. So we have 6 plus 4, that's 10. 4 plus 2, 6. Here we have 18, we have 10. We have 11, we have 6. All right. So the resulting value is a 3 by 2 matrix. 3 rows, 2 columns. So if you look carefully, the correct answer is option D. All right. That's the correct answer to this question. Now we're going to move on to the next aspect. We're going to be solving questions on ratio, proportion, and rates. All right, guys. Now let's look at this first question together under ratio, proportion, and rates. The question says, if 3 staff of my school limited agreed to share their salaries arrears in the ratio of their ages, which are 18 years, 20 years, and 22 years, respectively, if the sum of money collected is 120,000, how much does the second staff receive? Let's read the question again. If 3 staff, there are 3 staffs involved in this proportion that we're going to be doing, 3 staffs of my school limited agree to share their salary arrears in the ratio of their ages, which are 18 years, 20 years, and 22 years respectively. The sum of the money collected is 120,000. How much does the second staff receive? So when it comes to ratio, usually you have to do a lot of division and summation also. So one thing you want to do is, first of all, write their ages in ratio, because we are told that they are sharing it based on their ages. So we have 18 ratio 20 ratio 22. Now, once you have done that, get the sum of everything. So 18 plus 20 equals 22. Get the sum. So we are having 42 plus 18, that's 60. All right, so the total is 60. Now, what are they sharing? The amount that they are sharing is 120,000. All right, and we're asked that what will the second person receive? This tweet, this person. So what to get what he will receive out of this 120,000, you divide by the total. You divide the person's age by the total, and you multiply by the sum that they are sharing. Do you understand? That's how you get how much you will receive from the sum. All right. So if you do this and you simplify, you're going to be having 40,000 naira. All right. So the correct answer to this question is option C. Now we are going to be solving another question under rate, ratio, and proportion. The question says the extension of a stress string is directly proportional to its tension. If the extension produced by a tension of 8 Newton is 2 centimeter, find the extension produced by a tension of 12 Newton. So you first need to write out the parameters that are being mentioned here. Okay, so it says the tension of a stress string is directly proportional to its tension. So this aspect has to do with variation in a sense. The tension of, so let's represent extension as E. So extension is directly proportional to its tension. So that's the symbol for direct proportionality. What this means is that if there's an increase in extension, there will be an increase in tension. If there's a decrease in extension, there will similarly be a decrease in tension. Basically, what happens to E happens to T. That's what it means in this case. So it says if the extension produced by a tension of 8 Newton is 2 centimeter. So E is equals to 2 centimeter when the tension is what? 8 Newton. All right. Now the question has said we should find the extension produced. When the tension is 12 Newton. So what are we going to do in this case? In this case of variation, we are going to introduce a constant of proportionality, K. So we'll convert this variation here to an equation by introducing a constant K. So we'll be having E equals to K times T. All right. So when you want to convert from the variation of proportionality form to equation form, introduce a constant by multiplying that constant with the other value that you have on the right hand side. Do you understand? So first of all, you need to find K from this first value given. Now, how do you do that? Simplify the values for E. E is 2 centimeter. K times T is what? 8. So find K. K is what? 2 over 8, and that's 1 over 4. Now that we have K, we are going to use this same formula to solve for E when T is 12. So what is E? E is K times T. We already know what K is. What is K? 1 over 4. What is T? 12. Multiply. And then you divide. So we are going to be having 3 centimeter. So the correct answer to this question is option D. All right. So this is how you solve a question under rate, ratio, and proportion. These are similar questions that you can find. You always find questions in this portion. Now, next, we'll be moving into percentages. All right. So let's get into it. All right. Now, let's look at the first question together. The question says, if a rod of 10 centimeter in length was measured as 10.5 centimeter, calculate the percentage error. Now, there's a formula for percentage error, which you must know. And percentage error is given as actual value, all right, minus estimated value over actual value. Okay? Now, it's also same as error over actual value times 100. Do you understand? So we're meant to multiply here by 100 All right. So that's the formula. So the actual value in this case is 10 centimeter. The actual value is meant to be 10 cm. Okay. And the estimated value, EV, is 10.5 centimeter. So we need to get the error. All right. Now, in this case, if you subtract, you are going to have a negative value, but it doesn't really matter because we will not write negative value. We will not write a negative sign in our final answer. So error basically is the difference between these two. And the error is 0.5. So the error is what? 0.5. So to get the percentage error, we say error, which is 0.5, over the actual value, which is 10, times 100. All right. So what we're actually going to be getting when we simplify this is 5%. And that answer is option A. So that is it on percentage. Now let's look at another aspect. This aspect has to do with, loss percent. All right. So the question says a man bought a car for 800 naira. Now this is the cost price, the price at which he bought the car, 800 naira. And we're told that he sold it, selling price, he sold it for 520 naira. That's definitely a loss. All right. I will have to find his percentage loss. So how do we solve this? To get percentage loss, the formula is loss over cost price times 100. So loss is the difference between the selling price and the cost price. All right. So the loss is what? 320 naira, or 300 naira rather. 300 over 800 times 100. So this is how we're going to get the loss percent. Okay, seems like there's a little error here. This is meant to be 280, not 300. All right, so 280 over 800 times 100, and that's going to give us 35%. So the correct answer is option C. All right. Now, we're going to also move on from here into the next topic so that we can attempt more questions that could be asked. Now, we have moved on to the next section. And in this section, we're treating questions on algebraic expressions where you are asked to factorize. Now, in this case, most factorization might come in the form of difference of two squares or quadratic factorization. So you just need to be very observant of what you are given so that you can get the right answer. Now, let's look at this first question. Here, we're asked to factorize a square minus b square minus 4a plus 4. All right. Now, if you look at this question very well, we have a square. All right. And a here is having another coefficient. All right. Of 4a. And then we have a constant 4. So if you look at this, it's more like in the format of a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c. All right. It's in that format. So if we rearrange this, we're having a squared minus 4a plus 4. This alone looks like a quadratic equation. Then minus b squared. All right. Now we can simplify this. We can simplify this quadratic expression to and express it in terms of its factors. Do you understand? So if you simplify this, all you are going to be having is a squared minus 4a plus 4. All right. If you simplify this quadratically, I already explained how to do that. What you are going to be having is that the fact, okay, let's just cross multiply first. 4 times a squared is 4a squared. So we're looking for two factors so that when we multiply them together, they give us 4a squared. And when we add them together, they're also going to give us minus 4a. And those two factors are minus 2a and minus 2a. All right. Minus 2a and minus 2a gives us what? 4a squared. And minus 2a plus minus 2a gives us what? Minus 4a. So we are going to replace this portion with these two values. So we're having a squared minus 2a plus 4. Now we're going to factorize by, putting in brackets the first two terms and the second two terms. So we're having here a, open brackets, a minus 2. Here we can factorize out minus 2. And we're having a minus 2. You understand? So here we're dividing each term by minus 2. So minus 2a divided by minus 2 gives us a, and 4 divided by minus 2 gives us minus 2. So the two factors are a minus 2. You bring these two together, all right, and you pick one of these two values. So the two factors are a minus 2 and a minus 2. This is seen as a minus 2 all squared. Do you understand? So we can replace this entire thing as what? A minus 2 all squared. So you come here and you replace this with what? A minus 2 all squared minus b squared. Now what you have here is what you call a difference of two squares. It is the difference, the subtraction between two squared numbers. So difference of two squares, all right? So it's more like you have something. Let's say, for example, you have y squared minus b squared. To expand this in terms of difference of two squares, it becomes y minus b times y plus b. Do you understand? So that is what it means. So if you look at the options carefully, all right, let's try to expand this in terms of difference of two squares. What you are going to be having is a minus 2 minus b. That's the first part. Then times a minus 2 plus b. Do you see it? So we have expanded it in this form. All right. So if you look at it very well, the correct answer is option B. The correct answer to this question is option B. Now, how about the second question? Here we have m cubed minus m squared plus 2m minus 2. Okay. How are we going to factorize this? If you look at it carefully, it's almost like in the same format as this first question, because you can, try to factorize this theoretically also by looking for the factors. Do you understand? You can try to do that by looking for the factors. But before we do that, we can try to factorize these two terms and these other two terms together. Do you understand? We can try to do that. So we're having something like, let's put this in brackets. All right. And this in brackets also. Because if you look at your option is in that light. Your option gives you an insight on how you should go about it. All right. So we don't necessarily need to follow this method when we can do it this way. So divide or factorize m squared. If you factorize m squared, you'll be having m here minus 1. All right. Now, in what we're left with here is 2m and minus 2. We can factorize using minus 2. Or let's use 2 so that the value here can still be seen. Do you understand? Remember that when you are factorizing and you want to get the factors, you have to make sure that the value you get here is same as the value you get in the second bracket. So we have 2m divided by 2, that's going to give us m, then minus 1. Do you understand? So if you expand this, it gives you backwards 2m minus 2. Likewise, if you expand this, it gives you m cubed minus m squared. Do you understand? So we are meant to put a plus sign here. There's meant to be a plus sign there. All right. So since these two values are same, you can just simply pick this and this, you merge them together. All right. And pick one of these. So we have factorized this. And that is how you approach a question like that. So the correct answer to this question is option D. All right. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is simple operations on algebraic expressions. We're going to try to divide expressions together. I'm going to teach you a very fantastic method of using the long division table, all right, to divide expressions. So let's get into it. All right. Now, if you come across this kind of question where you're asked to divide this polynomial by another binomial, all right, how do you go about it? Now, first of all, you have to introduce the long division table. So do well to follow through as I explain. Introduce this long division table and write the value which you are dividing inside here. And what you are using to divide, all right, write it outside here. That's the denominator. Okay, so the numerator goes in, the denominator stays outside. Now you are going to divide the first term here or the term with the highest power of x, by this first term, which is 2x. Do you understand? So divide 4x raised to the power 3 by 2x. Now, if you divide 4x raised to the power 3 by 2x, you'll be having 2x squared. Okay, so let's just do it here. 4x cubed over 2x. You are left with 2 here. You are left with 2 here, 2x squared. All right. Now, once you have done that, use this value. Anytime you solve, the value you get is your quotient. Use that quotient to multiply this whole value that you have, the whole denominator. All right. So we're having 2x squared times 2x. That's going to give us, you write the value under here, 4x cubed. Then 2x squared times minus 1 is going to give you minus 2x squared. Do you understand? Now, what do you do next? You subtract. You subtract these two values. Okay? You subtract these two values. Now, 4x cubed minus 4x cubed is going to give us 0. Okay? Now, we cannot subtract minus 2x squared from minus 3x because they are not having the same coefficient. Numbers that do not have the same coefficient cannot subtract or add themselves. So it means that there is no corresponding value that can subtract this minus 2x squared. So this minus 2x squared comes down. Do you understand? Now, for the minus 3x, it is not subtracting any value here, so it comes down also. Then 1 is not subtracting any value, so it comes down. So these are the new values that we have. All right. Now, what do you do next again? You still use this first term here to divide the result that you have gotten. Use to divide the highest power of x. The value having the highest power of x. Use to divide it. All right. So having minus 2x squared divided by 2x. What is that going to give us? That's going to give us minus x. Anytime you simplify, to write the quotient here. Do you understand? Anytime you divide, write quotient here. So you are going to use this minus x now again to multiply this whole denominator. So minus x times 2x is going to give us what? Minus 2x squared. Okay. Then minus x times minus 1 is going to give us what? Plus x. What do you do next? You subtract. All right. You subtract. This 0 now is inconsequential. Don't need it. Okay. Now minus 2x minus 2x squared. Minus 2x squared minus 2x squared is going to give us 0. All right. Because remember that this minus is affecting everything you have here. So their sign is going to change. So it means you're having minus 2x squared plus 2x squared. That's going to give you 0. Now, in this portion, you're having minus 3x. Minus is going to affect this. It's going to change to what? Minus. Do you understand? So it means that you're having okay, let's look at something real quick. Here we had minus 2x squared. Do you understand? So this, because this minus 2x squared was at the denominator, is meant to be affected by this minus. So it means that we're meant to have plus here. Okay? We're meant to have plus in this portion. Do you understand? We're meant to have plus in this portion. So the sign that is meant to be here, where we divide, is also meant to be plus. You understand? So take note of that correction, because remember that this minus sign affects everything that is at the denominator. So the sign of this minus 2x squared is mentioned to plus 2x squared. Do you understand? So x times 2x gives us what? It should give us plus 2x squared. Do you understand? X times 2x gives us plus 2x squared, and x times minus 1 gives us minus x. Do you understand? So take note of that correction. So we are having 2x squared minus 2x squared. That's going to give us 0. Then you're having minus 3x plus x, because minus affects this to change to plus. So minus 3x plus x is going to give you minus 2x. Then 1 is not subtracting anything, so we just bring it down. Do you understand? So we are not done. When do you stop dividing? You stop dividing when we have simplified to the point that we are now left with zeros. That's when you stop dividing. All right. So we're still going to use this term again to divide this term with the highest power of x. Do you understand? So minus 2x divided by 2x is going to give us minus 1. Do you understand? So you write the quotient up, you use to multiply everything, use to expand the denominator again. So minus 1 times 2x is going to give you what? Minus 2x. Then minus 1 times minus 1 is going to give you plus 1. Do you understand? So I'm going to continue from this. I'm going to continue from this portion. Now we are going to subtract. Remember that we're going to subtract again. And the subtraction affects everything at the denominator. So you're having minus 2x plus 2x, that's going to give you 0. And you're having 1 minus 1, that's going to give you 0. So you can see that we're getting to the point where we have zeros as remainders. You understand? The remaining value you have is the remainder. So we have divided to the point that we're having zeros. Now, it's not in every case that you have 0. In some cases, there might be a remainder. The value might be 5, the value might be 7. That's the remainder. Do you understand? So this is the quotient, the value you have gotten from dividing. That's the quotient, 2x squared plus x minus 1. And the remainder is 0. This is simply telling you that 2x minus 1 is a factor of this number. A factor of a number is any number that can divide another number without remainder. So there is no remainder. Do you understand? So if you look carefully at the options, the correct answer to this question is option D. All right? 2x squared plus x minus 1. So this is how you divide. So let me do a quick recap on it. First off, you start by using this first term in the denominator, all right, to divide your highest power of x here. You get your quotient, you use your quotient to expand, and you subtract. The value you get, you also use this first term to divide the highest power of x again. You write it above, write your quotient, use your quotient again to expand, and you subtract. The new value you get, you keep dividing like that. Expand by your quotient, you subtract. You divide, expand by your quotient, and you subtract. Do you understand? So, having solved this question, we are going to go into the next topic, which is change of subject of formula. So you are going to see how to find the subject of formula, right, of a particular value or term. So let's get into it. Now, another aspect that you find question on is change of subject of formula. So let's deal with this question. Here, we are giving a formula m equals n times the square root of SL over t, and we have to make t the subject of formula. Now, what you're simply doing in making a term the subject of formula is to isolate that term. Do you understand? Put it on one side of the equation and move every other thing to the other side of the equation. So, what you want to do, first of all, is to try to eliminate this square root sign that is bounding t so that t can be free. Do you understand? So, let's see how we're going to do that. To do this, you have to multiply both sides of the equation by the power of 1 over 2. Now, one thing you need to note is that when a square root is on a number, for example, square root of 25, it can also be rewritten as 25 raised to the power 1 over 2. That is what it means. Okay? If, for example, you have the cube root of 8, it can also be rewritten as 8 raised to the power 1 over 3. Do you understand? It applies for the values that is here. That's what appears as denominator. So it means that this square root sign here means 1 over 2. It means SL over T, all raised to the power of 1 over 2. Do you understand? So for us to eliminate this square root sign, we'll have to square both sides of the equation, rather. Do you understand? So if, for example, I want to eliminate this 1 over 2, what do I have to do? I have to multiply by 2 so that it cancels and it becomes 1. Do you understand? So whatever we want to do. So the idea is that anything you do to the left-hand side of the equation, you must also do to the right-hand side of the equation. So I'm going to raise everything I have on the left-hand side to the power of 2, m raised to the power 2. Then this whole values here, I'll raise each of them to the power of 2. So m is raised to the power of 2. Then times the square root of SL over T is also raised to the power of 2. So remember that this square root means 1 over 2 in the power area. So when 1 over 2 cancels 2, you are left with 1. So you are only left with what is in the bracket. So we're having m squared equals n squared times what? SL over T. Now we can cross multiply. So you're having T m squared equals n squared SL. Alright? Now, if we move further to isolate T, you divide both sides by what? M squared. So T is equals to n squared SL over M squared. Do you understand? So that is the final answer. So if you look carefully at the options, the correct answer is option B. Correct answer to this question is option B. Okay? Now we're going to move on to the next topic. Every other question on change your solution formula also follows this similar trajectory. Just make sure you try to isolate that value. All right? Now, let's take a question under the aspect of quadratic equation. Here, it deals with roots of equation. So let's see this question together. All right, now let's look at this question together. This question says, if alpha and beta are the roots of this equation, okay, we are asked to find 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta. Now, there's a simple formula you need to know when it comes to roots of quadratic equation, okay? Now, take note of these formulas. Alpha plus beta is equals to minus b over a, while alpha times beta is equals to c over a. All right. Now, a quadratic equation is usually given in the format of what? Ax squared plus bx plus c. All right. So, to get the product of the roots, to get the sum of the roots, look for b, look for a, then express as minus b over a. To get the sum of the roots, look for c, look for a, and express as what? C over a. So that is how it works. Now, let's see how we are going to simplify this. First of all, let's identify a, b, and c from the equation. From this equation, a is equals to 3, b is equals to 5, and c is equals to minus 2. Now, let's simplify this. We have 1 over alpha plus 1 over beta. If you simplify this, all right, the LCM of alpha and beta is alpha beta. Now, you divide alpha beta by this denominator, we are left with beta. So, beta times 1 gives us beta. Plus, here, we are left with alpha. Do you understand? So, we are left with what? Alpha plus beta over alpha beta. This is just simply your normal LCM stuff. Now, what is alpha plus beta? We already established that alpha plus beta is minus b over a. So, what is minus b over a? Minus b over a, alpha plus beta, minus b over a is minus 5 over 3. And then, alpha beta, which is c over a, is what? Minus 2 over 3. All right? So, let's solve this together. So, we are having minus 5 over 3 divided by what? Minus 2 over 3. So what are you going to do in this case? Remember, we're going to change division to multiplication. All right, so we're having minus 5 over 3 times 3 over minus 2. So 3 cancels out 3. We're left with what? 5 over 2. Because this minus sign are going to cancel out each other. So let's look at the options. In the option, we have option D as 5 over 2. So the correct answer to this question is what? Option D, 5 over 2. This is how you solve a question that has to do with quadratic equation under sums of roots. Do you understand? So we're moving on to the next aspect, where we'll be solving questions on linear inequalities. So let's get into it. All right, now let's look at these questions on linear inequalities together. Now, the first question here asks us to find the values of x. All right, let's find the values of x. So what you have to do first of all is to find the LCM and simplify this first aspect. So the LCM of 4 and 3 is 12. Okay, now you are going to, divide 12 by each denominator and use the results to multiply their respective numerator. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now, using 3 to expand the numerator, you are going to be having 3x plus 6. All right. Now, also, I'm going to divide 12 by 3, right? And use that result to expand the numerator. So that's going to give us 4. Now, we are going to be having minus open bracket. Now, this minus affects everything we expand from here. All right. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 times 2x is 8x. Okay. And we're having minus 12. So look at it closely. We use this value to divide the LCM, and the result we use to expand the numerator. So 12 divided by 3, all right, is 4. Then 4 times 2x gives us 8x. 4 times minus 3 gives us minus 12. So remember that we have our less than 4 in this part. Okay, so what you're going to do next is cross multiply. All right, so we are going to be having 3x plus 6. Then we use minus to expand everything. Minus 8x minus times minus is plus 12. All right, less than 48. Okay, so you collect like terms. Now 3x minus 8x, that's minus 5x. Then less than 48 minus 6 minus 12. So we're having minus 5x less than minus 18. So that's going to give us 30. You understand? So if we simplify further, you are left with minus 5x less than 30, and x is less than 30 over minus 5. All right, and x is less than minus 6. Okay, so actually the sign is going to change. Okay, the sign is going to change because we are dividing both sides by a negative value. Anytime we divide both sides by a negative value, the sign changes. So eventually the final answer is going to be x is greater than minus 6. So please take note. One of the rules of solving inequalities problem is that anytime you divide both sides of the equation by a negative sign, the inequality sign is going to change to the opposite of what it is. You understand? So the correct answer to this question is option B. All right, so that's how we simplify this first aspect. Now let's look at the second question. Here we have 2 plus 2x over 3 minus 2 greater than or equals to 4x minus 6 over 5. How do we simplify this? First of all, we need to solve this first aspect. All right, we need to solve this first aspect because this is also same as 2 over 1. Now, the LCM of 3 and 1 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Use 1 to expand the numerator. So we're left with 2 plus 2x. Now, minus 6. How do we get 6? 3 divided by 1 is 3. 3 times 2, that's 6. All right, so greater than or equals to 4x minus 6 over 5. Do you understand? So we are going to simplify this numerator before we cross multiply. So we're having 2x minus 4 over 3 greater than or equals to 4x minus 6 over 5. Now we're going to cross multiply. All right, like this. So 5 times 2x is 10x minus 20. 5 is expanding everything that we have here. Now we are going to also use this to expand. Put the greater than or equals to sign here. 3 times 4x is what? 12x. 3 times minus 6 is minus 18. Now we're going to connect like terms. We are having 10x minus 12x greater than or equals to minus 18 plus 20. All right, so 10x minus 12x is going to give us what? Minus 2x greater than or equals to what? 2. So x, we are going to divide both sides by a minus sign. So eventually the value of the inequality is going to change to the opposite. So we are going to be having x is less than or equals to 2 divided by minus 2 is minus 1. So we're going to be having x is less than or equals to what? Minus 1. So the correct answer to this question is option C. So that's how you solve a question like this on linear inequality. Now we are going to moving on to the next topic. Now we are going to be looking at a standard question on function and relations. All right, so let's get into it. Now this question is a binary operation, and as you can see, the question says a binary operation
defined by this symbol here, is giving us m, let's just call the symbol times m is equals to mn plus m minus n. I will ask to find 3 times open bracket 2 times 4. All right. Now, this symbol is not your normal multiplication. This symbol is governed by this operation. All right. It's governed by this operation. It means that anywhere you see m times n, make sure you expand or simplify it as mn plus m plus n. So what you have to do first of all is to solve what you have in the bracket. All right. So we'll solve for 2 times 4 in this respect. All right. So we're just calling the operation times, but it's not times. So it will be given as what? 2 times 4. Mn means multiply 2 by 4. That's what? 8. Plus, what is m? 2 minus 4. So this is 10 minus 4, and that's 6. So we have gotten to the operation 4. So need to find 3 times 6. Okay? 3 the operation 6. So we're having 3 operation 6. We're still going to use this same idea. But in this case now, n is what? 3 and n is 6. So 3 times 6 is going to give us 18 plus n minus n. So 18 plus 3 is 21. 21 minus 6 is going to give us 15. All right. So 21 minus 6 is 15. And the correct answer to that question is option C. So similar questions on function and relations come like this. Now we're going to move on to the next aspect, which is mensuration, where we are dealing with plane shapes, solid shapes, their volume, their area, and the likes. So let's get into it. All right, now I wrote down a lot of formulas that you would need in solving questions under mensuration, but we're only going to look at a few questions and then we'll apply the knowledge. So make sure that you take note of those formulas, memorize them, and also know when to apply them. For example, when you talk about curved surface area, total surface area, you need to know what that means. For example, when you talk about curved surface area of a cylinder, you're just talking about the area of the body of that cylinder. All right. But when you're talking about the total surface area, you're talking about the area when one part of the cylinder is closed and the other part of the cylinder is closed. You understand? And in such a case, you add the area of a circle, all right, twice to the value of the CSA of the cylinder. Do you understand? So that is the way it works. So do well to study those formulas. Now, let's look at this question. This question says we should calculate the perimeter of a sector of a circle of radius 12 centimeter and angle 60 degrees. All right. So what does a sector look like? This is what a sector looks like. Perimeter simply means add the length of all the sides. Here, this is 60 degrees, and this is a radius. This is a radius, and this is length of an arc. So remember that this is actually a whole circle. Do you understand? Let's say this is actually a whole circle, right? And this sector is just a part, like a pie, like a pizza. So this L here that you're seeing is length of arc. And length of arc has its own formula, which is what? Theta over 360 times 2 pi r. Do you understand? Theta over 360 times 2 pi r. So we are going to apply that formula in getting the length of the arc and add the 2 radii to it. You understand? So perimeter just simply means add all the length you are seeing. So the perimeter of this sector P is equals to what? 2r plus L, where L is 2r sine theta. Sorry, L is theta over 360 times 2 pi r. All right. So we're having 2 times 12 plus what? Theta over 360, which is 60. Theta in this case is 60 degrees over 360 times 2 pi, what is r? R is 12. Do you understand? So 2 times 12 is 24 plus 60 over 360. That's going to give us 1 over 6 times 2 pi times 12. 6 here 1, 6 here 2. So we're left with 24 plus 2 pi times 2 is going to give us 4 pi. So when you punch this into your calculator, you should be having, 24 plus 4 pi. So the question actually left it like this. So the correct answer to this question is option B. Okay, correct answer to this question is option B, as you can see in the options. Now let's look at the second question. The second question is asking us to find the volume of a cone. The volume of a cone of height 6 centimeter and base radius 5 centimeter. So you just need to know the formula for the volume of a cone. The formula for the volume of a cone is given as V equals 1 over 3 pi r square h. All right. So the question already made it easy. We have been giving the radius, we have been giving the height. You just need to apply it into the formula, and you're having 1 over 3 times pi times 5 square times 6. All right. So this is going to give you 25 times 3 here 1, 3 here 2. This is 25 times 2, that's 50 pi. All right. So V is 50 pi. And when you multiply when you multiply 50 by pi, you are going to be having 3 and when you multiply 50 by pi, you are going to be having 157 centimeter cube. All right. So that's how we go about this question. Now we're going to move into the aspect of plane geometry. That's another section. And we're going to be looking at some topics here also. So let's get into it. All right. Now we'll be looking at questions under angles. And the first question that we have here is the one that deals with polygons. So I believe you have already seen the formulas that you need to know regarding this aspect. Now the question says, how many sides have a regular polygon whose interior angles are 120 degrees each? All right. So usually, to know the value of the sum of interior angles in the polygon, we use the formula S, sum of interior angles equals to what? N minus 2 times 180 degrees. All right. That's what we used to know, the total sum of interior angles that that polygon has. But now in this case, we already told that each of the interior angles in that polygon is 120 degrees. So meaning, if this is the total and I want to get what each and every value of the interior angle in the regular polygon is going to be, I have to divide by the number of sides that polygon has. So it means that the value for each interior angle, 120 degrees, is equal to what? N minus 2. That is the total sum divided by the total number of sides that we have. You understand? So we're looking for how many sides it has. So that means we're having 120n equals to what? N minus 2 times 180. That's 180n minus 360. We expand that. So if you collect items, what we are going to be having is 360 equals 180n minus 120n. And this is 360 equals what? 60n. Now, if you divide both sides by 60, n is equal to 360 over 60, and n is equal to 6. So, this polygon is a 6-sided polygon. Do you understand? So, this is a 6-sided polygon. It has 6 sides. Now, let's move on to this next question that we have here. Now, we have 2 parallel lines. Let me read the question. The question says, in the diagram above, L1 is parallel to L2. We have to find the value of angle PMT. We have to find the value of what? Angle PMT. So this is P. All right. And this is Q. This is T. All right. So this is actually what we are looking for. So this portion is likely the M. All right. That portion Y is actually the unknown value that we're looking for. So how do we get the value of this particular angle? So we're looking for this portion, 2y plus 10. This is the portion we're looking for. All right. So we're looking for angle PMT. So it is this midpoint value that we're going to find. So how are we going to solve it? First of all, let's work off this part so that we can have enough space to solve. Now, what you have on the other side is two parallel lines, and we have a transversal line cutting through. And where a transversal line cuts through two parallel lines, we see the idea of terms like corresponding angle, vertical angle, alternate angle being expressed here. Do you understand? We see that happening here. So we want to find the value of y from this portion. How are we going to do that? Now, it's very easy. Now, look at this transversal line that you can see. Let me try to replicate the shape here so that it is more clear. All right, so I'm going to replicate here. So we have 62 degrees here. We have our T, M, Q, P. So we're looking for the value of the angle in this portion. Okay, this is Y. So let's see what we have. What can we compare? Now, in this case, 62, all right, will be a corresponding value to what you have here at this portion. Do you understand? Corresponding angles are angles that are the same position on the opposite side of the parallel lines in the transversal line. This line is a transversal line. All right. So corresponding angles, for example, now are angles that are this position. So if you look at this first parallel line, this is a transversal line. This position on this parallel line is same as this position here on this parallel line. So those are what corresponding angles. So it means there is 62 degrees here. So likewise, in this portion that you can see where we have 62 degrees, here will also be what? 62 degrees. Do you understand? So having known that this portion is 62 degrees, what will this other portion be? This entire other portion. What is it going to be? This entire other portion is going to be 180 minus 62 because this is an angle on a straight line. All right. What you have here is an angle on a straight line. If, for example, I remove this line from here, let's assume it was not here. All right. Every single thing you have left here is the other part of this straight line. This is a straight line. Forget that the slant, all right? It's a straight line. You can twist it. So the sum of the angle here and the angle here should always be 180. That's the way it works. Do you understand? So it means that 2y plus 10 plus y plus this angle 62 should be giving us what? 180 degrees. So this is what? 3y plus 72 equals 180. Now, if you simplify further, we're having 3y equals 180 minus 72. All right. So I'm going to rub this off. Now, 180 minus 72 is 108. So 3y is equals to 108. Now, what is y? Y is equals to what? 108 divided by 3. And this is 36. Do you understand? So y is what? 36. But remember that it is not y that we're looking for. What we're looking for is 2y plus 10, this portion. That is the portion of PMT. So we're looking for 2y plus 10. So since we know that y is 36, we have 2y plus 10 is equals to what? 2 times 36 plus 10. So what is 2 times 36? This is plus 1. This is 72 plus 10, and that's what? 82 degrees. So the correct answer to this question is option A. And this is how you simplify a question like this. Now, what are other aspects that you need to know when it comes to plane geometry where you have a transversal line cutting through two parallel lines? Now, this other portion that you can see, this other portion, they are what you refer to as vertically opposite angles. Do you understand? They're what you refer to as what? Vertically opposite angles. So the value here will always be here. Will always be same as the value here because it's vertically opposite. Likewise, the value here and here will always be the same because they are what? Vertically opposite. But when you talk about corresponding angle, it has to do with two parallel lines. Two parallel lines must be there. Then the value at the top will be same as the value at the top on this other parallel line. Do you understand? So those are some of the portions that you need to understand. Now, we are going to be moving into the next aspect. So let's get into it. All right, now we're going to be looking at questions on the aspect of coordinate geometry. All right, now the first question that we have here says, if A is equals to minus 3,5 and B is equals to 4,1, all right, we have to find the coordinates of the midpoint. Now, when it comes to coordinate geometry, you are dealing with points on a straight line. Do you understand? So this is a straight line, all right? Point A to point B is a straight line. And on that straight line, we have point A at the coordinates of minus 3 and 5, point B at the coordinates of 4 and minus 1. Now, on your graph, which is an XY plane kind of graph, right? You have the x-axis, the y-axis, and all. So in this point A on the line now, this first portion represents the coordinates for x, the second portion represents the coordinates for y. This first portion represents the coordinate for x, second portion represents the coordinate of y. So if you want to represent this point on a graph now, you just need to trace minus 3 from x and trace 5 from y, and where they intersect is point A on the graph. So that's what we're dealing with in coordinate geometry. But now they want us to find the coordinates of the midpoint. So meaning, if I had the straight line on the graph, what would be the coordinates, the x and y axis of the midpoint of that line? Do you understand? So how are we going to do that? Now, note that this is your x1, y1. This is your x2, y2. So this is x1 because is the first point. This is s2 because it's the second point. Do you understand? So what's the formula for the midpoint? It's very simple. It is x1 plus x2 over 2. That's for the x coordinates of the midpoint. Therefore, the y coordinate of the midpoint is what? y1 plus y2 over 2. I believe you have seen all the formulas in there to solve this question already. So x1 plus x2 over 2 is what? Minus 3 plus 4 over 2. And we have 5 minus 1 over 2. So in essence, the final answer is going to be what? 1 over 2, comma 1, okay, comma 2. So those are the coordinates of the midpoint because 4 minus 3 is 1. That's 1 over 2. Here we have 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So having 1 over 2, comma 2. So the correct answer to this question is option B. Now, let's look at the second question. The second question says point P having the coordinates of minus 6, 1 and point Q having the coordinates of 6, 6 are two ends of the diameter of a given circle. We have to calculate the radius. All right. So we have a given circle. All right, and this is the diameter. Remember, the diameter cuts through the circle at the midpoint, and this is point P, this is point Q with their respective coordinates. Now we have to find the distance from the midpoint to point Q, because that distance is the radius. So how do we get the distance from this point to this other point? Now, it is very easy. Do you understand? It's very easy to get the distance. What you have to do is to first find the distance between these 2 points, then divide it by 2. Right? Since if we divide by 2, we are going to get equal radii, which sum up to give us the diameter. So the distance between 2 points formula is given as the square root of what? X2 minus x1 all squared plus open bracket y2 minus y1 all squared. So this is the formula for distance between 2 points. All right. Now, x2 in this case is 6. X1 is minus 6. And then your y1 and your y2, that's how you label them. All right. So what is x2 minus y1? x2 minus y1 is minus 6 minus 6. All right. And that's going to give us what? Minus 12 or raised to the power of 2. Then y2 minus y1 is going to give us 6 minus 1. That's 5 or raised to the power of 2. Okay. So here we're having square root of what? 144 plus 25. Now this is going to give us 169. Square root of 169. And the square root of 169 is 13. All right. So the distance is 13 units, because the units is in units. All right. So it's not in centimeters, so it's units, 13 units. So how do we get the midpoint? We divide 13 by 2. Do you understand? And dividing 13 by 2 is going to give you 6.5. So the correct answer to this question is 6.5 units. You understand? And that's option A. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Now in this question, we have to find the equation of a line perpendicular to the line 4y equals 7x plus 3, which passes through this point. Now for this formula, the formula needed to solve this question rather is the point slope formula. Okay? Because we have to find the equation of a line. So we need to use the point slope formula. And that formula is given as y minus y1 over x minus x1 equals to m. Do you understand? So here we already have x1 and y1. x1 is minus 3 and y1 is x1. Do you understand? Sorry, and y1 is 1 rather. So we need to find m. M means the gradient. Okay? We need to find the gradient. So we're already given one part of the line, and this line is a perpendicular line. I'm going to wipe this part so we can use it to dissect the question. So this line is a perpendicular line, and perpendicular line, the relationship between the gradients has a formula for perpendicular line. The relationship between the gradients for a perpendicular line is usually this: m1, m2 equals minus 1. So in a perpendicular line, all right, or when you have two perpendicular lines, the gradient of the first line times the gradient of the second line always gives us minus 1. That's for a perpendicular line. But if it's a parallel line, the gradient of the first line is also same as the gradient of the second line. So I believe you check those laws, those rules, those key points that's displayed on your screen before we started solving questions in this aspect. So do well to note them. So those formulas are what we're applying now. So we need to find the gradients. All right. Now we have two lines. Do you understand? This is the first line, M1. All right. And the second line is passing through this point. Do you understand? So we're looking for the equation of the line that is perpendicular to this other line that passes through this point. So this first line, this second line. So we need to find the gradient of M1 so that we can use to find M2. Do you understand? So we can use to find M2, and then we'll now write M2 here and then use it to solve the equation of the line 2. So how do we get M1? Let's get the first equation. The first equation is 4y equals 7x plus 3. Now, this equation needs to be expressed in the form of the equation of a straight line, which is given as y equals mx plus c. Okay? So, equation of a straight line is given as y equals mx plus c. Now, we need to write this in this form so that we can identify m. Do you understand? We need to write this in this form so that we can identify m. So, if you write it, you'll be having y equals 7 over 4x plus 3 over 4. All right, this is what you are going to be having. Now, how do you arrive at this? If we want to make this in this form, we need to divide all through by the quotient of y, which is 4. So 4y divided by 4 is y. 7x divided by 4 is 7 over 4x. Then 3 divided by 4 is 3 over 4. So n is what? 7 over 4. Do you see? N is 7 over 4. So now that we know m1, we are going to use this formula to find m2. Okay? So we have 7 over 4 times m2 equals minus 1. So what is going to be m2? M2 is going to be what? Minus 4 over 7. Do you understand? So you cross multiply. This is minus 4 divided by 7. So m2 is minus 4 over 7. Now, having known what our m2 is, we are going to use this point slope formula, all right, to find the equation of the second line, the second perpendicular line. So we have y minus y1. y1 is x. This is y1, is x1. Sorry, y1 is 1, please. Y minus 1 over x minus x1. So that will be plus 3. So minus 3, that's plus 3. Do you understand? Equals to what? Minus 4 over 7. N is minus 4 over 7. So we are going to cross multiply and also express this in the form of y equals mx plus c. Do you understand? That's what we are going to express it in. So let's continue. So if you cross multiply, we have 7y minus 7 equals minus 4x minus 12. Okay, this is 7y equals, okay, or let's equate everything to 0, because if you look at the options, every single thing is equated to 0. So let's just take it like that. Let's equate everything to 0. So we have 7y minus 4x, all right, minus 7 plus 12 equals 0. So this should give you 7y minus 4x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, so if you look at the options, the correct answer, okay, so there is a little mistake. We actually need to change this to plus, because when minus 4x comes to this other side, it should be a plus sign. All right, so this should be a plus sign. So our final answer is 7y plus 4x plus 5. All right, 7y plus 4x plus 5, and that's option A. So the correct answer to this question is option A. So this is how you attempt questions, likely questions on coordinate geometry. Now we're going to move on to the next topic, which is trigonometry. We're going to solve some questions in this aspect. So let's get into it. All right, now we're going to be looking at these two questions under the aspect of trigonometry. Very common questions you will usually find in the exam. Now, the first question says, evaluate sine 45 plus sine 30 in surd form. Okay, we'll have to evaluate is the surd form. So you need to know what the special angles are in their surd form. All right, now for sine 45, the surd form is 1 over root 2. That's saying it is 45. Then for sine 30, we have 1 over 2. So how do we simplify this? All right, how do we simplify this? Now, for this first surd, we need to rationalize it. Okay, we need to what? Rationalize it. So remember that I told you that when you are dealing with surd, the denominator of that fraction does not end with a square root. So you have to do what we call rationalization. So how do you rationalize this first term? By multiplying both the numerator and denominator by the same sort. So here we're having 1 over root 2 times root 2 over root 2. We're rationalizing this first part, then plus 1 over 2. All right. So 1 times root 2 gives us what? Root 2. Then root 2 times root 2 gives us 2. Then we have plus what? 1 over 2. Now, when you simplify this further, you are having 2, all right, as the LCM of 2 and 2 is 2. Then when you simplify, you're having root 2 plus 1. So the final answer in simplifying this is 1 plus root 2 over 2. Do you understand? So if you look carefully at the options, the correct answer is option D, 1 plus root 2 over 2, or root 2 plus 1 over 2. Now let's move on to the second question. Now the question says, if sine x is equals 4 over 5, we are asked to find 1 plus cot square x over cosec square x minus 1. So what does cot square x mean? Cot square x means 1 over tan square x. All right, that is what it means. Then cosec square x means 1 over sine square x. Do you understand? So with that being said, we need to find cos x. We need to also find tan x. So we are only given sine x equals 4 over 5. How do we find cos x? How do we find tan x? Now you need to represent this in a right angle triangle. Let's bring out a right angle triangle. Now from SOHCAHTOA, okay, we need SOHCAHTOA also. SOHCAHTOA helps us find a special trig identity. Do you understand? So this S here means sine theta, this C means cosine theta, this T means tan theta. So sine x here means sine theta or sine x is equal to what? The opposite over the hypotenuse. So the opposite is the numerator, the hypotenuse is the denominator. So if this was cos x, here the numerator will be adjacent, denominator will be hypotenuse. If this was tan x, the numerator will be opposite and denominator will be what? Adjacent. So this O means opposite, H means hypotenuse, A means adjacent, all right? And O means opposite. You know, we've mentioned everything. Do you understand? So in this triangle, this right angle triangle, we are going to represent the position of the opposite and the hypotenuse. Do you understand? Then we'll find the unknown part. All right. So if this was angle X, all right, this portion where this angle is pointing will be the opposite. So 4 will be written here. Why this portion where the angle 90 is pointed towards will be the hypotenuse. So we don't know the adjacent. So how do we find the adjacent? We use Pythagoras theorem, which is what? Hypotenuse square equals adjacent square plus opposite square. So hypotenuse square is 5 square equals what's the adjacent? The adjacent is 4 square plus, the adjacent is y squared plus the opposite is 4 square. So we have that y square is equal to 25 minus 16. Y square is equal to 9. Y is equal to root 9, and that is equal to 3. So the adjacent is 3. All right. Now, having known the adjacent to be 3, the opposite to be 4, and the hypotenuse to be 5, we can then go ahead to simplify this further. All right. So what is cos squared? Cos square x is what? 1 over tan square x. Do you understand? And what is tan square x? Tan square x is tan x all squared. Do you understand? So that is what it is. I'll be wiping off this part so that we can simplify further. Okay. Now, tan x from SOHCAHTOA is opposite over adjacent. All right. What is the opposite? The opposite is 4. All right. And the adjacent from what we have solved is 3. So tan x all squared is what? Opposite, which is 4, over the adjacent, which is 3 all squared. That's tan s all squared. All right. Now, what is now cot square x? Cot square x is what? 1 over tan square x. And we already know what tan square x is. right? From here, if we simplify further, it is what? 16 over 9 times x all squared is 16 over 9. So 1 over 16 over 9 is going to give us what? 9 over 16. Because the reciprocal of this number means swap the denominator and numerator position. Do you understand? Now, we need to find cosec squared x. All right, we need to find cosec squared x. And cosec squared x is 1 over what? Sorry, it should be 1 over sine square x. All right. How do you know that it is 1 over sine square x? It's very simple. Cosec. Okay. Always consider the third letter, which represents s for sine. So it is what? 1 over sine square x. Do you understand? So moving further, all right, moving further, we already have sine square x. Okay, we have sine x, we don't have sine square x. So what will sine x be? Sine square x will be what? 4 over 5 all squared. And 4 over 5 all squared will be 16 over 25. All right, so sine square x is 16 over 25. The reciprocal of 16 over 25 is 25 over 16. Do you understand? It's 25 over 16. Now we have our cosec square x, we have our cos square x. We now have to simplify the whole thing. Okay? So we're having 1 plus what is cos square x? 9 over 16 over 25 over 16 minus 1. Do you understand? So we are going to simplify this gradually. Let's start from the top. Let's start with 1 plus 9 over 16. 1 plus 9 over 16. The LCM is 16. Okay. Now, this 1 over 1, this is still same as like 1 over 1. So, 16 divided by 1 is 16 times the numerator, that's 16. Then, this is 9. 16 divided by 16 is 1 times 9, 9. So, at the numerator, we are having what? 25 over 16. Do you understand? So, let's just do it like this. Then at the denominator, this is same as 1 over 1. The LCM is also still 16. All right. Then 16 divided by 16 is 1. 1 times 25, 25. Minus 16 divided by 1 is 16. 16 times 1, 16. So this is 25 minus 16 is going to give us 9 over 16. So we are left with 25 over 16 divided by 9 over 16. But we are going to change that division to times. And it becomes what? 16 over 9. So our final answer is 25 over 9. Do you understand? So that is the final answer to this question. And the correct answer is option B. So this is how you simplify a question like this. You break it down bit by bit, but you must also know what the trig identities represent. So do well to, I believe you have taken note of the formulas you saw before we started solving. They are going to aid you in, answering questions like this. Now, next, we are going to be moving into angles of elevation and depression. All right, now we're going to be looking at the question on angle of elevation and depression, and also a question on bearing. Now, let's start with angle of elevation and depression. Now, the question reads that a man stands on a tree that is 150 centimeter high, and at that top of that tree, he sees a boat that is beneath him. All right, the boat is on the ocean, and he sees this boat at an angle of depression of 74 degrees. And we have to find the distance of the boat from the base of the tree. Now, this is a pictorial representation of what this question is saying. We have a tree that is 150 centimeter high, and there is a man at the top of this tree, all right, looking at an angle of depression of 74 degrees at the ocean where there is a boat with a man sailing. Now, the question was to find the distance of this boat from the foot of the tree. So we are looking for x particularly. So how do we solve this? Now, the angle of depression of this man that is standing on the tree is the angle of elevation of this person that is at the boat. So the angle of elevation of this person, if this person was also looking at the man that is on the tree, will also be 74 degrees. Do you understand? So what we need to solve for is x, which is the adjacent in this case. So the opposite is 150 centimeter, all right, and the adjacent is x. So from SOHCAHTOA, which of these three identities are we going to apply? SOHCAHTOA. Which of these three identities are we going to apply? How do you know the one you apply? You know the one you are going to apply depends on the parameters that are given. Do you understand? Here we are given the opposite and the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent is characterized by the tan. Okay, so let's simplify using TOA. So it means that tan 74 is this tan of this angle 74 is equal to the opposite over the adjacent x. All right, so x is actually equals to what? 150 divided by tan 74. All right, so if you punch that in your calculator, you are going to be having 43 centimeter. Do you understand? You are going to be having 43. Actually, you are going to have, you're going to have 43 centimeter in centimeter. Okay, so that is it. So the correct answer is option B. Now let's look at the second question. Now the second question on that bearing says that from a point R, 300 meter north of P, a man walks eastward to a place Q, which is 600 meters from P. I will ask to find the bearing of P from Q correct to the nearest degree. Now, these questions are easy. You just need to be able to interpret them. So we are going to be solving this on this other part of the board, breaking down what has been said. All right. So the question says from a point R, 300 meters north of P. First of all, you want to draw your cardinal points. Okay. Draw your cardinal points. This is north, this is south, this is west, and this is east. You need to know this before you start solving the question. Where is north, where is west, where is east, where is south? You must know it. Now, the question says from a point R, all right, that is 300 meters north of P. So there are 2 points. There are 2 points. Let me make this cardinal point smaller. Now, I'm going to redraw this based on what is being stated. All right, you already know the cardinal points. Now we have from a point R 300 meters north of P. So point R is what? 300 meters north of P. So if this is P, point P, all right, north, south, west, east, and this is point P. And point R is what? 300 meters north of point P. So this is north of point P. So let's just say this distance here is 300 meters. All right, and this is where point R is. Do you understand? But I thought that a man walks eastward to a place Q. Do you understand? A man walks eastward to a place Q. So this is point R. This is point R. So from this point R here, a man walks eastward. A man walks eastward. So this is north, this is south, this is west, this is. A man walks eastward. Okay? A man walks eastward to a place, to a particular place Q. And that place Q that this man has walked to, all right? The man walked to this point is 600 meters from point P. So this is point P. All right? So the distance to this point is 600 meters. Do you understand? So the man is at this point. We already have a point R. Point R is 300 meters northward from point P. And we have a man that is in this point R that has walked to a position Q. And that position Q is eastward of R. And that position Q is 100 meters from what? Point P. We have to find the bearing of P from Q and correct to the nearest degree. All right? We have to find the bearing of P from Q. So this is point Q now. This is point Q. This is the north, the south, west, east of point Q. Point R also has its north, south, west, and east position. Do you understand? So, how do we find the bearing of P from Q? It is very easy. Okay? The bearing of P from Q is all the angle starting from here, like this, up onto this position. Do you understand? So this portion is already 90. This portion is 90. We need to find what this other portion is. All right? So once you can find what that other portion is, you can now tell what the bearing of point P from Q is. Because it says from Q, that's why you have to start from the north position of Q, and then you read through to the point where it cuts the line that joins both P and Q. So that's the way it works. Do you understand? So let's move on. How are we going to get this portion now? We already have a right angle triangle from this point. Let me draw it in this other portion. We have a right angle triangle from here. All right. This portion is 300. This portion is 600. All right. So because this is a right angle triangle, usually we can apply our SOHCAHTOA, and we can also apply our Pythagoras theorem, but that does not really concern us. What we need to find is this angle. And to get this angle, we just need to find this position. We need to find this position. Okay? Because this position here is alternate to this position here. So if you can know this position, you have gotten this other position. Do you understand? And we can do that by applying our SOHCAHTOA. This is the adjacent of the triangle, and this is the hypotenuse. Where the angle in question and angle 90 lies is the adjacent. Where angle 90 is pointing towards is the hypotenuse. So we are dealing with adjacent and hypotenuse. All right? That is CA. So cos theta, let's say this theta, is equals to what? The adjacent, which is 300, over the hypotenuse, 600. So what we need to find is the cos inverse of 300, let's say 3 over 6, which is also same as 1 over 2. The cos inverse of 1 over 2. All right? And the cos inverse of 1 over 2 is 60 degrees. Do you understand? So this position is 60 degrees. That is, this theta here is 60 degrees. So because it is alternate to this position, here is also 60 degrees. So the bearing of P from Q is the sum of all these angles that we have here. That is angle 90 plus another angle 90 plus angle 60. And that's going to give us what? 180 plus 60. And that is 240 degrees. Do you understand? So the bearing of P from Q is 240 degrees. Now let me recap the question. The question says from a point R, which is what? 300 north of P. It means you need to identify the position of point P first, and then note 300 meters from the north of P. So that's what we did. We identified point P, we did 300 meters from north of P. That is where point R starts from. Do you understand? Point R starts from what? 300 meters north of P. This is point R. Do you understand? And from this point R, a man walks eastwards. Do you understand? A man walks what? Eastward. Okay, this is the east position of point R. A man walks eastward. So a place Q, that is this position. And Q is at 600 meters away from point P. The midpoint is always the point P. So this has formed a triangle. Do you understand? But now the question says find the bearing of P from Q. So from point Q, what is the bearing starting from the north position to where this line? goes through point P. That is the total distance. Do you understand? So that is the way you get the bearing. So this position is already 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. You need to find this position. And then bringing out this triangle, alternate angle is going to help us to get what the value of this position is going to be. So that's how you attempt a question like this on bearing. So next, we are going to move into introductory calculus. All right, so we're going to look at the basic formula for differentiation and integration. All right, now let's look at these questions on integration and differentiation. It will help us to get an idea of how to solve questions like this. Now, this question says we should find the derivative of y equals 1 over 3x plus 6 all squared. Now, the standard differentiation formula that you need to know has already been shown to you, like you saw earlier. So what are we going to do in this case? This question here needs to be solved using chain rule. You use chain rule when you have a value in a bracket raised to a power, and you have to find the derivative. Do you understand? So starting with chain rule, we are going to represent what we have in the bracket as u. But first of all, what's the formula for chain rule? The formula for chain rule is given as dy over dx equals du over dx times dy over du. So what this means is that for us to get the derivative of y, which is dy over dx, we need to first find the du over dx, then find dy over du. So how do you first find the u over dx? Represent what you have in the brackets as your u. So u is equal to what? 1 over 3x plus 6. All right? So differentiating u with respect to x here is going to give us du over x. All right? And from the basic rule of differentiation, you use the power of x to multiply the coefficient of it, and you subtract 1 from the power. So if you differentiate this, you'll be having 1 over 3. So du over dx is 1 over 3. Then when you differentiate a constant, you always get 0. So differentiation of 6 gives us 0. So du over dx is 1 over 3. Now I've gotten the first part. Now how do we get dy over du? Now it is very easy. To get dy over du, you write y equals to u raised to power 2. So you represent what's in the bracket as u. Now we're going to differentiate y with respect to u, dy over du, and that's going to give us what? 2u. To differentiate, we multiply the power by the coefficient of u, which is what? 1, and then you subtract 1 from the power. Do you understand? So that is how we go about it. Now, we're not going to leave u like this. We recall what u was. U is 1 over 3x plus 6. So we're going to represent this u as 1 over 3x plus 6. So dy over du is equals to 2, open bracket, what? 1 over 3x plus 6. Do you understand? So the final answer to get your dy over du is the product of du over dx times dy over du. All right? So that is what is going to give us the final answer of our dy over dx, which is the derivative of y. So we can just simply do that here. Okay? So dy over dx is equals to what? 1 over 3 times 2 times 1 over 3x plus 6. Do you understand? So this is going to give us 2 over 3, open bracket, 1 over 3x plus 6. All right? So if you look at the options, what we are having here as the correct answer is option B, 2 over 3, open bracket, 1 over 3x plus 6. And that's how you simplify or get the derivative using chain rule. Now let's get into integration. Now, here we are asked to simplify the integral of what? 5x raised to the power 3 plus 7x squared minus 2x plus 5. All right? Now, to get the integral or to integrate this, we are going to apply the integration formula. You just have to integrate each of the terms singly. Do you understand? So you are going to find the integral of 5x raised to the power 3, the integral of 7x squared, the integral of minus 2x, and the integral of 5. All right? So the integral of 5x cubed is 5x raised to the power 4 over 4. So remember the general formula. In the general formula, you have to subtract, you have to add 1 to the power, do you understand, and divide by the result. Do you understand? So we're having 5x raised to the power 4 over 4. Then plus 7x raised to the power 3 over 3. So add 1 to the power, divide by that result. Then minus 2x raised to the power 2 over 2 plus 5x. The integral of a constant will always give us the value with a coefficient of x. Do you understand? The integral of 10 is 10x, the integral of 7 is 7x, and so on and so forth. So this is the simple answer or the simple simplification of this question. And the correct answer to that is option B. And nonetheless, always remember to add your constant, your plus C. Do you understand? So with this, you already have an 80 to 90% knowledge of all the ground topics that you need to know before going in for the maths Waec exam. All right. I'm also going to give you some tips and on some area of concentration on the theory aspect, the area you should focus on before going for the exam, because questions usually come from this aspect. So let's look at those lineup of the AOC. Now, this is an AOC on the theory section. All right. So these are some of the topics that you should focus on before writing or going for the theory aspect. Do you understand, of your exam? That's the maths exam. Now, the first topic is bearing and distance. Questions usually come from this aspect because it is an elaborate section where you have to show your workings, right? Draw and also proof. So you'll always find questions of bearing and distance, usually in the theory section. Now, for sets, Venn diagram involving 2 subsets, 3 subsets, do well to read on it. Now, for your longitude and latitude, questions also come from this aspect. Now, linear and quadratic graph, where you have to deal with your bar chart, your pie chart histogram, or your OGIF, where you're dealing with cumulative frequency and the likes. You definitely will be dealing with graph. All right. So make sure you learn about quadratic graph. Now, we also have circle theorem, an important section. Do well to read on it. Financial arithmetic, do well to read on it. Your selling price, cost price, loss percent, simple interest, compound interest, and the like. Construction, learn how to construct simple angles like angle 60, angle 30 degrees. Very important. Then your sequence and series, your AP and GP. Questions usually come from there. Then mensuration, your volume of solid shapes, all right? Area of a cone, of a cylinder, stuff like that. Do well to read on it. Simultaneous equation, also read on it. Then logarithm without tables, where you have to deal with your anti-log, all right? How you use your 4-figure table to solve logarithms. Do well to read on it also. Then probability. You can find 1 or 2 questions on probability. So with this area of concentration, if you can read on these topics also, you are good to go. A very good material for you to use while preparing for this math exam is Hidden Facts. Hidden Facts breaks down all these topics in a very simple and clear way for you to understand. Do you understand? So get that material if you don't have it. And thank you for your time. I believe with this, you'll be able to ace at least and up to 80 or 90% of your math exam. I remain Enya Josh. Thank you.